Tipp today in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. Slattery'sGarage.ie.
Good morning, wherever you're tuned in from. We're here in the Clonmel studio. I'm Stephen Gleeson here. Leanne is producing today. I'm in for Fran Curry, and we're looking forward to a very action-packed show here on Tipp today. So I hope you'll stay with us across the morning. We've got a lot coming up on today's show. We'll check in with Jordan Adams very soon as he runs across Ireland. Cllr Jim Ryan will join us to chat about various topics, and Deputy Mattie McGrath will react to the decision to demolish 52 houses in Ballypadeen near Cashel. And we'll also hear from the Belle Voci Choir. Gillian O'Mahony has the legal slot, and our interior designer Karen Prendergast will be live in studio as well. So it's a very busy show to come here. Just a quick look at the papers. The Irish Daily Mail leads with Cabinet on a collision course with RTE over pay, and the government fears a proposed salary hike for RTE Director General Kevin Backhurst will prompt a flurry of claims from its star talent, and that is going to be a big story in the coming days. The Irish Times has a picture here of our President and the King of England, and royal welcome in Buckingham Palace is the heading. Britain's King Charles is set to undertake a state visit to Ireland, with Catherine Connolly saying he graciously accepted an invitation during their meeting at Buckingham Palace yesterday. It was Connolly's first official visit to Britain as president, and of course she'll be in Ireland later in the week here in Tipperary as well. The Irish Independent leads with first 200 dodgy box owners targeted by Sky legal letters. Around 200 dodgy box users across Ireland have received legal letters from Sky threatening action if they pay for illegal streaming services again, and the letters ask users to sign a settlement within 14 days, including an undertaking never again to subscribe to an illegal IPTV service. So more to come on that as well, and that's in the Irish Independent. Well, a man diagnosed with early onset frontotemporal dementia, better known as FTD, is undertaking an extraordinary endurance challenge across Ireland, and he has been on the roads across Ireland for quite some time this month. Jordan Adams, one half of the FTD brothers, is preparing to push himself to the limits of physical and mental endurance as he runs a full marathon, that's 26.2 miles a day, for 32 days across all 32 counties in Ireland. And this morning Jordan begins his trek through Tipperary, and he joins me now on the line. Good morning, Jordan.
Good morning. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome to Tipp FM, Jordan. Have you been out and about early this morning?
No, not really. The morning's now 24 days in. Is a real effort to get out of bed, even to find an appetite to carb load again and reset myself ahead of another marathon. So not gone too far other than the accommodation we settled into here in Tipperary last night. And yeah, it won't be long now. We get to the start line for around 10 o'clock until we get going again for day number 24.
Amazing. And what's the route you're going to take today?
I'd love to say I know, but I'm working on kind of 5 minutes in hand. Unfortunately, I've got a support crew around me who are taking care of me. As you can imagine, by this stage, it's rather mentally and physically exhausting. So I'm prioritising just making sure I'm in the best possible shape, and then the logistics-wise covered by my team. So I don't even know each day I have a chance to recce the route. I just literally turn up in a new county and get going with the navigation on my phone as backup and kind of just following the support car across the route.
Oh, that's amazing. So tell us a little of your story for those who aren't familiar with it. Early onset frontotemporal dementia has affected your family in a big way. Your mother died at 52 after living with it, and now you have that diagnosis as well.
Yeah, so back in 2010, my mum was formally diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia at the age of 47. She went from being a vivacious, life and soul character to we started noticing small but significant changes in her behaviour. Not just memory loss that a lot of people would associate with dementia, but behavioural changes, going through extended periods of low mood, a lot of confusion, and she's actually misdiagnosed twice before she got her official diagnosis, once with depression and once with a silent stroke. And after a long, arduous journey to get a diagnosis, she was eventually diagnosed on the 23rd of June 2010 with FTD, frontotemporal dementia. But what makes it even more rare is that it's a familial FTD, so it's caused by a genetic mutation. And if you're a carrier of that genetic mutation, then it gives you a 99.9% chance of getting that type of frontotemporal dementia. So I've actually lost my mum, auntie and nan, as well as 12 Irish relatives in total to this same form of dementia. And after watching my mum be stripped of everything that made her who she was, and ultimately a human being over a 6-year period, where she lost the ability to walk and talk. She was completely incontinent for the last 2 years of her life. She was eventually fed through a tube, a peg, and she was basically bedbound for 24 hours a day in the front room of our home before she passed away. In the front room at the age of 52 on 14th of March 2016. And as I say, we each, as my mum's children, had a 50% chance of inheriting the genetic mutation which causes it. And my sister very bravely so went on a journey to find out her genetic circumstances at the start of 2018. And we got the first bit of good news we'd had as a family for a long time, that she had the all clear. And from there I was inspired by my sister to go down the same route. And unfortunately, on the 12th of September 2018, my genetic consultant told me the worst news of my life as a 23-year-old, that I am a carrier of the genetic mutation in our case, which is MAPT, and that, as I say, it gives me a 99.9% chance I'll get FTD, more than likely in my mid to late 40s, going off the extensive family history, losing 12 Irish relatives all getting symptoms in their mid to late 40s. And yeah, that day I chose to try and use my diagnosis as a licence to live and build a legacy that honours my mum's memory and the relatives we've lost, but also leave something behind for my family when FTD does take my life. And sadly, just kind of 4 years into that journey, using running as a vehicle to create awareness and raise money for dementia research and welfare, my little brother got the same shared diagnosis. And since then, 2023, we've gone on a mission. We set ourselves a monetary goal to raise £1 million in our lifetime before dementia takes our lives, and gone on this mission to make dementia visible and to come back home here to Ireland in the past 3 weeks and be met by so much support. To now have raised 1.3 million in this campaign alone. It's just truly mind-blowing and so surreal, and we can't thank the Irish people enough for the welcome they've given us and the support and generosity and kindness we've been shown. It's been truly overwhelming.
And to raise awareness is a huge part of this, and research. And, you know, is there much work going into finding a cure or finding better treatment to deal with it?
Sure, yeah, things are moving forward. But when you look at kind of where cancer research is in comparison to dementia research, we're very far behind. You know, back in the UK, since 2000, there's been around 90,000 clinical trials for cancer research. When you look in comparison to dementia, there's only been around 3,000. You know, that just shows us where we're at with dementia research. The brain's a very complex thing, and if I quite frequently get asked whether I think a cure will come in my lifetime, and I don't believe so. That's not me being pessimistic. You know, things are moving forward, and I think we've got a genuine chance to move forward diagnostics and biomarkers where we can diagnose people early, and hopefully there'll be treatments in place for people living with types of dementia that aren't familial or genetic, that can prolong their life or make their lives give their lives a bit more quality. But for us, we're relying on a gene therapy, and that's something that's quite complex. There's a lot of different genetic mutations they're having to look at. And to be quite honest, I think it will take a considerable amount of time to bring about those therapies that could cure us. But we're not doing this to look for the silver lining of a cure. We're very realistic about our situation. This is about bringing hope to families. It's about raising awareness about dementia and taking away the stigma that it's not a natural part of ageing. We shouldn't have an acceptance towards it, and ultimately it's hurting too many of us, and things need to change. So the message has been loud and clear in the past 3 weeks. It's been loud and clear for the past 8 years in our case, but thanks to the Irish people getting behind us, it seems that we're reaching all corners of the world, and we feel truly humbled by the support that we've received.
And it's a remarkable story. So you undertook this and just got involved, and I suppose what you could do is just run and go with it. And you undertook the London Marathon recently with a 25 kg fridge on your back. Is that right?
Yeah, so the 26th of April was the day we started this challenge with the London Marathon. I ran alongside my little brother Keane, obviously, who shares the diagnosis, but I ran with a 25 kilogram fridge on my back to try and get as many ears and eyes across our story and the awareness that we were trying to create. And that evening we flew into Belfast, where the following day we started another 32 consecutive marathons across all the counties here in Ireland, starting in Antrim and obviously working our way around the country, where today we'll take on day number 24, marathon number 24, when you include London within that, here in Tipperary. So we've got 10 marathons to go, 10 days to go until hopefully we can wrap this up in Dublin and celebrate with so many people who are hopefully going to be travelling to the city and to support us and have followed this journey the whole way.
Well, I'd have to say I'm doing well at the moment to do 10k, and to do a marathon in one day is one thing, but to do a marathon every single day, I mean, that must take serious endurance, willpower. Physically, how are you finding that?
Yeah, it's difficult. I'm running on injuries now. Putting it plainly, I'm running on things that probably a lot of people wouldn't run on. Wouldn't advocate for people running on those injuries, but when you're running for a cause like we are, pain is kind of temporary in this. There's a bigger kind of mission at hand here, and although I'm not going to put myself in kind of extreme danger or anything like that, then to run on a little bit of pain and tiredness is nothing in comparison to what we've already been through as a family and what we'll continue to go through after this challenge is over in terms of our future. So, I'm mentally very drained. The support is fantastic, but we're having a lot of conversations about a very emotive subject, and obviously running the miles. The weather in the past 2 days has been quite miserable as well. So there's lots of things that I'm having to kind of contend with, but more than anything, I'm trying to remain present, enjoy the experience, and just, as I say, hugely grateful and privileged to have the support that we have had over the last 3 weeks, and hopefully that can continue over the next 10 days all the way to Dublin.
Have you met many people along the way with stories of their own that are similar, or has there been some light moments where you've had a bit of humour, a bit of crack along the way?
Definitely. I think we often say as a family, without having a sense of humour in the crack, then we wouldn't be in a position that we are. In times of darkness, you need those funny conversations to get you through, and we've met so many characters along the way. We've also had some extremely sad conversations, people stewarding their own stories with dementia, their own heartbreak and their own loss, but that's what this was all about. This was about giving people an opportunity to feel heard and seen, and to be quite honest, it's gone way beyond our initial purpose of this mission. It's transcended its initial kind of idea, and we seem to be now inspiring the next generation. The amount of school children that are coming out to support us, and young people we're inspiring to get into running. Also, people just going through tough times with their own mental health, we're helping too, and we just feel hugely privileged to feel backed by what feels like an entire nation right now, and we'll never be able to repay the kindness and the generosity we've received.
I'm just looking at the route that you took here. So you started out above in Derry, went to Letterkenny, County Donegal, Omagh, Monaghan, down along the west coast, then down to Sligo, Castlebar, Carrick-on-Shannon, Longford, Roscommon, and then down as far as Killarney, Cork City, and now you're making your way back up in Tipperary today, over across towards Washford, then Kilkenny, Wexford, onto Tullamore, Kildare and up to Dublin. So you're probably heading in towards Cashel, Care, that type of route today, towards Waterford City, towards Clonmel, Carrick and onto Washford. And like, people will probably see you out and about in Tipperary today. You know, what is there something you want them to take from it if they're listening this morning and they see you running a bit later on today?
Sure, more than anything, you know, we're just grateful for the support. But I've had plenty of people beeping horns in their car when they see us, people coming out on the streets to cheer us on, or people coming out to run a few kilometres with us. You know, we're just grateful for any of the support that they can give us. And I think if there's any message to send to anyone listening, that it's, you know, we none of us have a choice over the cards that we get dealt, but we all have a choice over how we play our hand, and that's what we're trying to show people. You know, no matter what you're going through, it's amazing what you can achieve when you've got the support of the community. And within each county, we've found so far some incredible people, incredible communities, and the power of people coming together and showing so much love and support is absolutely phenomenal. And hopefully that can continue, and we can see the very best of the community here in Tipperary today.
Oh, brilliant stuff. And I know you featured on the BBC as well, and you'll be getting lots of coverage in Ireland here as well. And if people want to follow your story online, it's the FTD Brothers, and that's on Instagram there. And they can follow your social media platforms and see how you're going along the way.
Yeah, that's it. So we're on Instagram at the FTD Brothers and TikTok. If they'd like to donate, then they go to GoFundMe, the FTD Brothers. We know it's a tough time to give money away, so if you can't donate, then please just go and follow our story on social media. If you want to find out more about the routes and the days of the challenge, then they can do at theftdbrothers.com. All the details are on there, but we just appreciate everyone's support.
Well, Jordan, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you this morning, and I wish you well along the road.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great stuff there. That's Jordan Adams, and he's undertaken a marathon today in Tipperary, as we said there, diagnosed with early onset frontotemporal dementia, and he'll be out running across Tipp today. So if you see him, beep along the way.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Well, you're very welcome back to Tipp Today with me, Stephen Gleeson, here this morning. A lot of texts coming in already here, and for Jordan, we're on our way to Tipperary town to support you following your journey since your interview on BBC. Keep her lit, one says here. Another says, best wishes, Jordan, fantastic, and looking forward to seeing you running across Tipperary today. Another message here, George and Nina was in touch. Stephen, star presenters in RTE might start looking for a pay rise. What star presenters have they? The only one they have is John Creedon. The rest are forgettable. That's from George in Nina. So a lot of text coming in already here. The number is 083 311 3311, and Leanne is on the phone lines. 1-800 938 007 is the number there. Well, Tipperary County Council has adopted a policy effectively prohibiting the erection of a new roadside memorials along roads in the county with a speed limit of 60 kilometres per hour and over. The council's revised roadside memorial policy containing this new restriction was unanimously approved by the local authorities' elected members at their monthly meeting recently. Committee chairperson Jim Ryan, said a lot of queries and concerns were raised by SPC members that resulted in amendments being made, and he was happy to propose the policy's approval. And he joins me now on the line. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Stephen. How are you?
Good, Jim. This is, I would say, an emotional topic for a lot of people.
You're right, Stephen. It's a very emotional and a very sensitive issue. Unfortunately, Tipperary County Council were left with no other decision but to amend our roadside policy. Back in May 2017, we adopted a new roadside memorial policy, outlining rules and regulations regarding the installation of roadside memorials. Now, at that time, there was no restrictions on the roads or the speed limit on roads that a memorial could be put on, but unfortunately, each local authority in Ireland were contacted by the Department of Transport and by Transport Infrastructure Ireland, demanding that our roadside policies will be amended to take account of the government's road safety strategy from 2021 to 2030 and from new regulations being brought in by the Department of Transport and Transport Infrastructure Ireland. So unfortunately, every local authority in Ireland has been contacted, and we were left with no choice but to amend them to comply with the government strategy.
So I suppose roadside memorial markers, when somebody gets knocked down on the road, those that are in place will remain in place, but this is referring to everything from now on.
Yeah, so existing memorials won't be impacted. So in case anybody out there is worried that to have a memorial located on a road in Tipperary, that it may impact them, but it won't. So it's only going forward that these new regulations and rules have been brought in by the government, and we have to comply by them. So yes, so you're right in what you're saying there, Stephen. The existing memorials won't be affected at all by this.
And is it a fear that people will be on the roadside when cars are whizzing by, because, a lot of roads people are above the speed limit quite a bit in Tipperary?
Look, we can only go by what the directions and what the advice being given by the department, and what they're saying is that, it is not my words, this is their words, but the presence of roadside memorials on high-speed roads, that they're concerned about the increased pedestrian activity in hazardous locations. They're concerned about the stopping, the parking and the vehicle manoeuvres. They're concerned about the maintenance activities such as grass cutting or decoration placement, and they're also just concerned about the distraction to other road users. So they're the grounds that they're putting the pressure on the county councils across the country to amend their policies on roadside memorials. And as I said earlier, we've no choice but to amend them.
And have members of the public been in touch since this decision was made, Jim?
Well, look, it's only actually made there recently, so members of the public may not be aware of it. I suppose the purpose here this morning is to kind of let people know that these new rules are coming in. If something, if a tragedy happens, and if a family member is thinking about putting a roadside memorial up, what I would say is just contact the county council, just to apply to them for permission to put up a roadside memorial, and to see if they're going to be allowed to put it up in that particular location. But, as you said earlier on there, like a lot of concerns and questions and queries were raised by members of the SPC. It was a bit of a shock to us that we had to change our policy, because up to now we had no issue with roadside memorials going up on any road in Tipperary. But as I said, it just came to our attention that the Department of Transport, the government, Transport Infrastructure Ireland, want these new rules implemented by not just Tipperary County Council, but every local authority in Ireland. So as I said earlier, we no choice in the matter but to amend them, and that's what we had to do.
I suppose a big problem as well is when members of the public contact the council about a danger point or a dangerous, part of the road. It feels like there isn't a lot being done at times, and that's something maybe the council would have to adapt, to make the roads safer so these aren't needed as much.
Well, Stephen, to be honest with you, we barely have enough money to resurface roads in Tipperary, never mind make roads safe. We don't get enough money from the government to carry out necessary projects. I have a list here, as long as my arm, of roads that need to be, that safety works need to be carried out on them, and we just cannot get the money from the government. So it's not as easy just to say, the council should go out and make roads safe. We would if we had the money, and the government unfortunately are failing local authorities across the country by not giving them the money to carry out these works. So I think more pressure needs to be put on the government, and more pressure needs to be put on our TDs to get more money into local authorities across the country so that we can carry out road safety works on a lot of our roads that are really in a dangerous state at the moment, and particularly rural roads, where there's very bad sharp bends where there's, hedging coming out onto roads. Roadways are very narrow. We need to be carrying out these works, but we need money to do so. But unfortunately, Tipperary County Council, despite our best efforts in trying to get as much money in as possible, we just can't seem to get it in from the government.
And what are you doing to get it in from the government as such? What efforts have you done so far, and what plans do you have to change your approach?
Well, look, sure, the county councils are doing everything they can, and county councillors are doing everything we can to put the pressure on the government. At the end of the day, the TDs in our Tipp, some of whom are in government, have the power to influence government ministers and the government, particularly times of budget, at the budget time. So, more needs to be done there in relation to putting pressure on TDs. And, I have proposed successfully at a county council meeting that we invite in our TDs, so they can sit down with us, listen to our concerns and bring them back to the government. But up to now, unfortunately, they've refused to come into the county councillors to do meet the executive, but they've refused so far to come into the county councillors and sit down with us. So, again, at our last county council meeting, I asked for that. It was unanimously supported by all county councillors, and that invitation has gone out to our TDs to come in, meet with us, listen to our concerns and take it back to government.
Okay, Jim, another road I suppose that's causing a lot of consternation in Tipperary, and I know a lot of people were frustrated by the traffic works in Thurles Saturday evening at the match with a big crowd. The state of Bornanave Road in Thurles, public are very frustrated with the delays there.
Well, look, it's due to finish next month. We knew it started in January, February there this year. I can't remember which month now, but we knew it was going to take a number of months. We were told 4 months it would take to complete. It's due to be completed early January. There has been a lot of traffic congestion and traffic delays as a result of the works. But look, this is an NTA design project, and it's funded by them via the county council. Over €1 million has been put aside for this. To carry out pedestrian safety works at Bornanave and along by Castle Meadows and Thurles. Pedestrian safety is a priority for the NTA. In that particular area, Stephen, as you well know, you have Semple Stadium, you have the Greyhound Stadium, you have the Twos Third Level College, and you have Clostarbera Secondary School. So there's a lot of people who use that, use the footpaths. A lot of students there, a lot of people attending matches. So the NTA felt that work needed to be carried out at those areas to make it more pedestrian safety. So works included new footpaths and layouts, the cycle lanes are being put in, road realignments, new pedestrian cross, a new bus set-down area, and then there's works on the Bornanave junction, which is where I have serious concerns. I have no issue with any other works because, pedestrian safety is a priority, particularly with the level of students that use that area. But in my opinion, and the opinion of quite a lot of people that have contacted me, the works on Bornanave Junction are just not going to be acceptable, to be honest with you. And I've seen it firsthand myself. And what happened there was, it previously was like a 2-lane junction where, you could turn left or you could turn right coming out of Bornanave. There's 2 lanes there. They've now narrowed the road carriageway where the 2 lanes are gone. They've increased the width of the footpaths. They've narrowed the road carriageway. So as a result of it, and I've seen it myself, I was stuck in a traffic jam there about over a weekend ago there, and I saw a car leaving Bornanave looking to go left onto the Nina Road, and there was a van coming from the Nina Road looking to go down Bornanave. And when the van came down Bornanave, the 2 vehicles couldn't pass each other, and the van had to reverse back onto the road again. So if that's not working for a van and a car, imagine what's going to happen when a lorry and a car or 2 lorries are one coming out and one trying to get in. It won't work. The layout is completely wrong. And it's going to make the area more dangerous, actually, because you're going to have now traffic reversing back onto a very busy roadway there along by Castle Meadows. So I've asked the council, I've contacted them, I've asked them to relook at it. And, in their eyes, they're particularly happy with it, but I've asked them to look at it again because it isn't just my opinion. I have been contacted on a daily basis by people who use that road and have said the same complaints that I've been putting forward to the county council. So, look, hopefully, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I can only look at it from my own 2 eyes and listen to other people that are contacting me. But certainly from what I have seen, it's going to be very difficult, particularly 2 big vehicles like lorries or vans to pass each other at that new realignment at that junction in Bornanave. And as I said, it's not just myself. A lot of people have been contacting me about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's difficult to get through there at present.
Like you would have seen yourself, Stephen, the match last Saturday, like the works that are being carried out there, you would see, that junction has been narrowed, substantially, the road carriageway by these new curved footpaths that are coming out. I don't know why they're coming out so far. But I'm sure you would have seen it yourself, Stephen, and you probably, maybe you were so busy concentrating on the match, you didn't maybe concentrate on that junction. But certainly, as someone who passes it most days of the week, I just feel it's too tight, and I think an amendment needs to be made to it. But we'll wait and see. I mean, when the works are completed, it's only then you'll really know. But as I said, I did see a case where, a van had to reverse back out because the van and the car couldn't pass each other coming in the opposite direction.
Yeah, these situations are far from ideal in 2026. Talk to me about the delay in the construction of this new proposed link road. No green light there yet.
Is it ever going to end, Stephen? Yeah. Like we were told last year that that the funding would be in the national review of the National Development Plan. It is in it, seemingly, according to our government TDs. But we were told last year by our local Fianna Fáil TD, Ryan O'Mahony, who came on your radio station to announce that works would commence in next year and to be finished by 2027. But new information that has been given by the County Council is now stating that the advertisement for the contractors won't now take place until late 2027, and hopefully construction to take place in 2028. So, despite the promises being made by our local Fianna Fáil TD saying it will be completed by 2027 or 2028, it doesn't look like we have any chance of that happening unless there's a change of attitude by the government. So, unfortunately, despite, the designs being completed, planning permission being given, the route selected, the link road, and that's the road I'm talking about, is the road from the new Lidl junction out as far as the Mill Road. That's the road, we're not talking about the bypass here now, we're just talking about that in Relief Road, from Lidl junction to the Mill Road. So despite promise after promise down through the years that money would be provided for it, again, we now have another delay in the construction of it. But look, we'll be hopeful that the money will be given and work will commence, but it looks like it's going to be delayed again now by a few more years.
Delays and more. Well, we hope it can be solved as soon as possible. Councillor Jim Ryan, thanks for joining us today on Tipp Today.
You're more than welcome. Thanks. Talk to you soon. Thanks, Stephen.
And there's a lot of texts in on that. We'll come to them after a quick break.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1-800-938 007.
You're welcome back to Tipp Today. A lot of text in on that last one there. Memorials are a way to help people cope in regards money. The council get enough in rates and car parking charges. Another says, a quote from the councillor, we haven't the money to make the roads safe. The council wastes money every year on unnecessary road coating and 40-foot wide paths, but not money to make the roads safe. So a lot in that text there, and we'll try and go through it in a while. Well, I'm delighted now to be joined in studio here by Deputy Mattie McGrath. Good morning, Mattie.
Good morning, Stephen, and great to see you. And listen, welcome to the new job. And thank you very much for the bottom of my heart for all the honest, earnest reporting you give us all the time for our GA Canada and other sporting fixtures every week and out in all weathers. And I want, as I'm talking about that, just in relation to the match on Saturday, unfortunately I wasn't there. But look, it is disappointing, but I've no doubt that Liam Cahill and his charges will regroup and refocus. And this seems to be happening now. Teams that win All Ireland, that happened 2 years ago with Cllr. So look, big Login and Boyrock, and I say keep the chins up, and the naysayers, look, give this team a chance.
Absolutely well said, Mattie. And we're here this morning, a number of topics to cover. The estate of 52 partially finished homes overlooking the Rock of Cashel, County Tipperary, is set to be demolished. The local council has decided that, and originally they were meant to be holiday homes linked to a hotel that never materialised. We Councillor Brown on yesterday about the topic, and you're not happy with the situation now as it stands, Mattie?
No, I've been involved in this back since 2004, and in 2004 South Tipperary County Council gave full planning to Mr. Liam Campion and associates, his family really, to build the hotel, the 52 houses, and indeed a helipad, and connection to the services in Cashel, somewhere around where the Esso filling station is on the old M8. And that was when the old M8 was busy before the bypass opened. So look, it went on and on then. There was issues about he not building whatever on site, but the council took a challenge there, and he won every case in court. And all you're entitled in this country is a good name. So in 2008, Cashel District Court dismissed in December 2000 dismissed the council case against Mr. Campion regarding the planning infringement. So there was no conviction of any sort against Mr. Campion on this. Unfortunately, the crash came, and now we are where we are. But in other cases, and one in Nina in particular, in other cases around the county, where leisure facility houses were associated with leisure holidays, the boom, the madness was granted, they've been changed to the use for social housing and private housing. And there are numerous sites around the county that have, de facto, they don't have proper planning, but people thankfully are living in those so-called holiday chalets because they have no place else to live. And it beggars belief now that the council, having lost all their cases against them, that they didn't go to the High Court, that they didn't go to the Supreme Court. Councillor Brown mentioned they went to the Supreme Court. No, there was no case to the Supreme Court. So I'd ask the people talking about this, and the people who voted for it as well, to look and read the court records. There was a pint of law taken to the Supreme Court by the council, but they must have got their answer there as well, because they agreed to go into mediation. So if you're winning a case, you don't go into mediation. So Mr. Campion has built all over the country, and he's building at present 3 and 4 5-storey blocks in Cork and Dublin. These houses are a massive, fabulous construct. Some of the best I've seen constructed. And I had people that came there on the open date we had there for people to come and see them. A number of builders came and said 80 to 100,000 would finish the houses inside. Now, outside is a different matter because the pads have to be done and the sewage connection must either go to Cashel with the Irish Water, where planning was granted for that, albeit the planning is out now, or else it must be a package plant on site, which could be examined as well. And Councillor Brown also was talking about, the figures presented by the council, I think, 24 million would cost to bring it up to, for council social houses. Nobody's talking about complete social housing. I'm talking about a mixture, like most developments. They have some social, some affordable, and the rest private. People cannot buy a house, can't buy a good value house in Tipperary at the moment. They're not being built. Right behind us here on Colville Road, a huge development has stalled. And that developer has 15 different companies, different parts of the country, 15 different sites, and they're all stopped. The cost of concrete has gone up by 30%. And these are a massive concrete construct. And I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of it, but I could, but I ask people to read the court records. Mr. Campion didn't lose any cases. Why did we mediate? And what did the mediated settlement cost? That wasn't given to the councils. I couldn't get answers on this. And I also want to ask they gave a guide during the public consultation then. I find it difficult to know how the council could agree to something in mediation in court when it had to go to a Part 8. Are they taking the councillors for nodding donkeys in that case, that they'll just do what the officials say, which is what has happened now? And there's a 6-week, and there was huge engagement with the public consultation, and the report was printed probably 10 days ago, produced by the manager. They have 6 weeks to discuss that. And many Part 8 projects have a number of workshops and meetings before they agreed. And to convene a meeting 6 or 7 days after the report of a Friday evening with very short notice, and for the councils to attend a workshop, and then immediately after a full meeting to pass this. It's in decent haste, and decent haste makes mistakes, and I'm worried where this is going to go, but I don't think those houses will be out anytime soon. The other issue is they gave a guide price when they went to public consultation. At the same time, without telling the council, telling me as a public representative, I speak for myself, we're supposed to be briefed on all matters under the Dual Mandate Act. They gave a guide price of 400,000 and advertised an e-tender for companies to come and demolish these houses, and that the public consultation was only out running at the same time. So they had a decision made, obviously, using the council as just a rubber stamp it at our stage. So there's huge question marks here, and 400,000, in my opinion, wouldn't bring the equipment that's needed to demolish those onto the site. And the other thing that Councillor Brown referred to a lot, and going back years ago, that Sean McCarthy and others were always complaining about the wood, the stockpile of rubble. It is solid rubble. It has settled, so it hasn't moved. But if the councils, and he said that Councillor Burgess and Councillor Kennedy also raised at the meeting that they wanted this removed as part of the settlement. They had the driving steering wheel in their hands. They needn't have voted for the Part 8 until such time as they got included in it, the removal of the rubble. And worse, the houses are going to be knocked down to foundation level, much higher than what your table is here, probably 5, 6, 7 foot high in places. So there's going to be huge scarring on that side when the houses are knocked of the bases and all the sub, which is an uneven site, so obviously it's very high concrete left there. And the other issue is conservative figures are to remove that, segregate it and remove it to a proper licensed landfill. For the charges alone to bring it into the landfill for intake would be over $1 million to 1.2 million, and they're saying about 400,000. I want to know, what is this costing the ratepayers of South Tipperary and the taxpayers of South Tipperary? Millions upon millions upon millions, in a case that the council never won. So, I mean, I'm not knocking the council, but some of the planners are still there, and senior people are still there that have dealt with these enforcement issues. They were on the bench in the court. So a lot of questions need to be answered here, and it's just unfathomable, as Mr. Camping said yesterday to the Irish Times, that they would knock 52 houses when we're trying to get houses built, and concrete has gone up by 30% this year alone. So builders are stalling projects. They're not breaking any new ground all over the country because the prices are just, oil is used to make concrete, and we know the problems.
As a project, I mean, there's a lot of mistakes going back along that this hasn't been dealt with, sooner than now. But can this be resolved quickly following your approach?
No. Remember again, 2004, South Tipperary Council granted full planning permission. In 2008, Cashel District Court dismissed the case by the County Council against Mr. Campion. It's not Mr. Campion's fault, the crash came. Why didn't the council take any case to the High Court or anyplace else to deal with it from 2008, December 2008 until 2024, 2025 when they did? So it's not Mr. Campion. He's entitled to his good name. I mean, they're talking about a site. The house is on the Duana Road or Frater Road from Cashel. You can walk 10 minutes from the Esso station out to the site. I mean, this is nonsense to say it's on zone land. The council granted planning there. And there was a planning history there back from the late 50s. And there was a motel there. I danced in that motel. I was at public meetings in that hotel. I often had a beer at the bar in that motel. So it's not that it's a raw greenfield site. This was a commercial site back in the late 50s, early 60s, up till, it was demolished, thankfully, because it was hugely vandalised. And Mr. Camping came along, thanks be to God, to clear the site with a novel project. And the finest houses were ever designed. So a lot of questions to be answered. And my job is to have accountability, to have, transparency, and there's no transparency here. I mean, the council lost the case in district court in 2008, so we can easily have nice language and everything else in councils. Then the councils were written to by the CEO not to visit the site. They weren't voting as to vote on this, but they wanted to visit the site, a site that the council didn't own. A lot of strange things have happened here. I want a full and thorough independent investigation, because this is not ended by any manner, and the costs to the ratepayers of South Tipperary and the taxpayers are enormous. And this is what's going on up and down the country. With Children's Hospital, you name it, we have many, many other projects, and another issue. South Tipperary County Council amalgamated shortly after the planning was granted here. And I don't know, have we the legal protection now in the council if there's a big legal challenge here, if the council are sued? Have we the constitutional protection that we deserve under the new county council? A lot of things are strange there. The dual mandate was abolished as well, where TDs and senators are not allowed to council meetings. We're supposed to be kept updated. I attended our briefing with the CEO and directors in December this year. My main reason of being there going on was to ask questions about this. CEO didn't attend. For some reason I didn't know she wasn't coming. So it's the first time ever I was at one of those meetings without a CEO. So I'm very concerned that I can't get the answers here. And a hush-hush and a clandestine meeting to rush this through on a Friday evening. People were away. Some people weren't even, they hadn't adequate notice. We all expected, me included, that it would be brought to the council meeting. When it didn't come in May meeting, it come to the June meeting. And then there was a 6-week period after that. Why the inordinate and extreme rush?
And what options are there regarding those houses now?
Well, this is the thing. I believe Councillor Brown was talking about the social houses. I have developers who visit the site, are interested in purchasing that site and finishing those houses, developing them, finish the roads and the sewers if they get planning on site, or bring it into Cashel where it was granted first day, and sell them on the open market. They're very saleable. And maybe the hotel, it's difficult to get somebody now to take on a hotel. It's a 120 bed hotel, which is badly needed in Cashel and indeed in Tipperary. And people are talking about the Rock. There are buildings a couple of hundred yards from the Rock, which are obnoxious looking and terrible. The planning was granted around the same time, incidentally. And this site out here, properly landscaped, would be visually attractive. And first of all, people would have homes there. Some council houses, when we have hundreds waiting in the Cashel Care Tipp district for houses, and then the majority of them for social and affordable are private houses to buy. People can't buy houses, and there's an estate being built in Tipp at the moment, and people are flocking to buy the houses out on the Drum Road, and houses just aren't available, haven't been built. There's a housing crisis. You'd think there wasn't when this decision was made last Friday evening. I would say in the dark only for daylight because it's long evenings, but look, a lot of questions have to be answered here. We haven't got them, and I don't intend to give up on it.
Do you think it'll be reversed? Is it possible that, we can see your approach being taken?
The courts of the land are the final arbiter. Unfortunately, we had, again, a local group had to take a judicial review against the council, disclosing that there was a proper treatment effluent plant in Dundrum to allow that monstrosity that happened there now and the destruction of our hotel and filling it with people, unfortunate people, but the numbers and all, that's another story. But halfway through the judicial review, the council had to put their hand up and say, we erred in giving that. What did that cost the taxpayer, the ratepayers in South Tipp and the taxpayer? What costs are associated with that? So there is an action group there in the year, and my strong feeling is, I can't speak for him, that the judicial review is being considered, and my God, I shudder to think what might come out in this, because it's littered with questions, unanswered questions. I'm not blaming any one individual, but I'm saying that we need accountability and transparency, and that the best, we don't know what the settlement was with the developer in the mediated settlement. That's ratepayers' money. We're looking for money to upgrade derelict houses. We're looking for money for everything. And what that cost, and the costs associated with all the cases that we're taking in the district court, not the other courts which council seem to think they went to the highest court in the land. They didn't.
We have a lot to get through, Mattie. While you're here with us, talks between union representatives for the National Ambulance Service and the HSE over paying conditions. That dispute is set to resume today. That's a big issue nationwide.
It's a massive issue going on for years, and it's just unbelievable and bizarre. I got to see the strikers last time, the people out on protest last week, not strikers. They are maintaining as a necessary service for people. These are our angels of mercy, I call them. We all know of cases where they have saved people's lives, but the whole situation has been dragged down now into a mire, and the unions, they had an agreement, they voted for it, but they changed the goalpost then afterwards. Personnel and management here are fought again, whether it's at the behest of the government or whether they're running solo, I don't know, but they need to sit down and talk. They need to sign up to the agreement that the unions voted for and give them that, because we're going to have an all 3-day, I think, next week, and then longer disputes afterwards. I couldn't say enough about the paramedics. They're not ambulance drivers, as some people refer to them. They're highly skilled, highly trained. One of them actually saved my own grandchild recently, but by stroke of good fortune. My grandchild, got a severe, EpiPen situation, and they're highly trained. They're fast, out there before the smaller ambulances, before the big ambulances can arrive. But the whole system now, which has gone on to the Gardaí now as well, which is an utter disaster, where the 999 system goes into a station 100 miles away, and the nearest ambulance available is transferred. So if I fall down the steps here in Tipp this morning, an ambulance called, they'll have in their documents, it was called at 10 a.m. It was an ambulance dispatch at 10:03, but that ambulance could be in Sligo, could be Donegal, could be anywhere. It's a con job and a trick that's been played. And the paramedics are falling asleep. They're being forced to work long hours because of tiredness and unsafe practices. Ambulances are burning out. They've crashed. There have been serious things have happened because of a system. They're just trying to play at public accounts, and the health committee can say ambulance response times are this. Same now with the Gardaí. We've been told to ring 999, which is in Cork. I had a case where somebody rang 999 and they scared. looked for support in Newcastle when his car was being broken into by people in Ballypadeen. And the ambulance was dispatched to Newcastle West when he looked for an hour and a half after they sent to Newcastle West. Knowledge is vital, and these people have the knowledge and expertise, but they also need knowledge of where they're going and when the nearest ambulance and what time it might arrive.
Oh, absolutely huge story. Text machine has lit up here. I'll bring one to you here, Matty. Can you ask Matty about the Lingawn River Bridge in Carrick on shore, please? It's part of the South Leinster Way joining the East Munster Way in Carrick, a major tourist walking route for the future. Locals can't go across the river as the bridge needs replacing, and it's not suitable for walking or cycling. The bridge joins Kilkenny and Tipp and has existed for years over the Lingawn fording point.
Very important, lovely bridge, very important linkway for people, especially to walk and cycle and other farming practices as well. So let's need to talk about a bridge. We're going to have Finland Bridge. It's closed since 2012 or something. The flood is a pity it wasn't brought away that night with a new bridge. And stubbornness again by the council officials wouldn't listen to the people. People decided they wanted a two-way. So we're being punished now in Finland and the greater region for not agreeing with the council diktat. And we're supposed to be in a democracy where the councils have a say, but unfortunately democracy was damaged last week when council had a say and didn't use their power that they had. So is any wonder powers will be taken away from them? But look, bridges all over the place. I have one in Newcastle, Cllr Jim, which I want to thank the council for their swift action. Cllr Jim Bridge, which they did come out, they were going to close it for months, but no, they did immediate necessary immediate works. I want to thank James Swords and our other engineers and Walter Downey and others who acted swiftly. Guardian Company secured 2/3 of the bridge, so it is open, albeit one way for the present. But there are bridges there's a bridge out in Bellaluby's well closed. Farmers can't get into their land. We need huge funding for bridges and for culverts as well, and we need not be wasting money and paying out settlements for ineptitude really by planning. And I was involved in the case with Mr. Campion back there and other wastes of money that are there.
A lot of messages in. Ambulances are being told to wait for hours in the parking lot while the hospital gets a bed, and others showing a bad management. Well said, Matthew, regarding the houses. The decision to demolish them during a housing crisis is appalling. The only thing I disagree with Matty on is I think we do need to start blaming organisations and people in issues like this. One thing I want to finish up with, Matty, we were debating it this week and Fran was as well last week about sulkies on the roads. No conclusion with that, just to finish up briefly.
Look, it's a problem, and I had asked Fran right in this table a number of times. I'm asking him again because I know that he has Jimmy on from Cashel on the sulky. I went out on the sulky with him to sit down and organise a meeting between Councillors Brown, Chicken Brennan and Councillor Chicken Brennan and myself and any others who want to try and remediate this. I brought forward legislation twice. I have the bill submitted again. It's a pretty substantial private member's bill, well researched, and it's there on the statute books. Can be. I hope the government won't vote it down this time. They did the last time. It's to get sulky racing up, to ban sulky racing up public roads and get it onto a track. We'll have to work with Horse Racing Ireland, indeed the equine industry, which is huge in South Tipperary. Surely we can come up with all the expertise and with civility and respect for each other, have a track that is safe, but above all that is helpful to the horse's feet. Concrete and bitumen on the roads is not a suitable place to run horses. They get destroyed their legs. So the animal welfare groups are right to be hugely concerned, and we can't have other accidents happening here. It's just quite reckless. So we need to have civility, as I said, respect, and try and work out with my piece of legislation. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it can be amended. But I hope the government will accept it, not vote it down. The Minister O'Callaghan has given the soundings that he has interested in doing something here. It's across a number of issues because of animal welfare. It's the part of agriculture. So, I mean, we need to have traceability, accountability. Above all, we need to have high-vis vests. We need to have some kind of signalling. We need to have, safety for the riders as well and the children, which I see on them, and the road users as well. So hopefully this legislation will be accepted. I intend to submit it this week and in the Dáil or early next week. If I get a date, you have to in a queue to get a date for first stage and have it read there at first stage.
Great stuff, Matty. We're well over time for news, but just to finish off on that, we approached the group for a meeting on Matty's behalf, but have not heard back. So more to come. Matty, thank you for joining us this morning.
And your experience on the hurling fields and all the other sporting fields has stood you well for this job. You're good at the ground hurling. Man far. Good gal.
And with that, we're going to take a quick break and just before news.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
You're very welcome back to Tip Today with me, Stephen Gleeson, here. So a lot of messages in. We'll come to them in due course. But I'm delighted now to be joined in studio by Marion Connors and Eamon O'Mahony. And the excitement is building in Clonmel as the Belle Voci Choir get ready to present Bells and Strings in collaboration with the Libra String Quartet on May 29th in St Mary's Church. And Marion Connors and Eamon O'Mahony are here with us now. You're very welcome.
Good morning.
Stephen.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for having us.
Great to have you here. And Marion, we'll come to you first. Tell us about the choir and the background of it.
We're a 34 strong ladies upper voice choir in 3 parts. We sing in 3 parts. We rehearse once a week on a Monday at St Joseph's Church in Ferryhouse. That's been our home for as long as I've been with the choir, and I'm with the choir 12 years.
Brilliant.
So that's been, before that.
And it's a big part of your life.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah. It's huge. I love, for me personally, I love the choir. I love the camaraderie of the choir. I love the performance. So yes, made some fantastic friends.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing, I suppose, you're thinking, what song are we going to do?
Oh, yes.
How are we
Oh,
going
yes.
to
Yes.
play together,
Yes.
sing
Yes.
together?
And having Eamon as our MD has been fantastic. He's been with us all of my time, so Eamon's with us 12 years as well.
And that's very
So
important.
yes, and he likes to challenge us, and we've a huge range of music, as Eamon will allude to later on, but a huge range of music, anything from McGillimar to Alice, which is the Alice in Wonderland, to Barbie, What Was I Made For, the Billie Eilish. So it's a huge, and some Latin pieces. We do a lot of Latin choral pieces as well. So
That's such a broad range.
huge, yeah.
And
Yeah.
Eamon, this choir is huge. I know you're involved in Uproar and a number of choirs.
Yeah, I am. I have to give a shout out to, I suppose, the Thurles Community Choir. Actually, they've been renamed just last week, but new name on the way in. But that's there in the source. But yeah, Belle Voci is kind of like my first home. They were the first choir I ended up being the MD of full time. I had done a little bit with Carrick and Sure Music Society as chorus master, and then the Bells came to me and asked if I would be interested, and that was, as Marion said, there 12 years ago now, and it's been fantastic to watch the choir grow and to really experience so many different facets of choral music and choral singing with them. And it's been my kind of like the foundation for me with choirs. It was really working with the Bells, and from that we've kind of managed to travel all over Europe anyway. Only in the last year alone we were in Vienna, where we performed at the Palais Erbisal in the middle of Vienna, which was fantastic. Prior to that, we've been in Italy, we've been in Prague, we've been in Lisbon. So the choir has really travelled and performed to audiences of kind of all tastes and all backgrounds, and it's been fantastic. And so it's really great for us now to be here in Clonmel, to come back and to put on this concert, which is unique for us because we're performing with the Libra String Quartet. We have maybe in our concerts we performed with a cappella or with a piano accompaniment, either a cappella jargon there is like when you sing without any accompaniment, but now we have like the string quartet, the Libra String Quartet, and it's that combination, I think, of the women's voices and the strings will create a real very particular warmth and intimacy, because we're in the beautiful acoustic of Old St Mary's Church in Clonmel too.
Fantastic.
So I think really we'll look forward to that, and we're just off the back of the Cork International Choir Festival, where the choir placed second in the best female choir category. So coming back from that and going straight into a full concert program shows you as well, I think, the energy and the commitment of the group too.
And the sound that you'll get for that concert, here in your hometown especially.
We had our first rehearsal with some of the strings last night, and like all rehearsals, you're kind of like takes a while to settle in, and for people to hear each other and to kind of like find the space. But when it does, it's totally different.
And to hear yourself singing with the strings was unusual for us. But it was great.
It
was
elevates
really good.
you, does it?
Oh, it does.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
it
ups
does.
the game. Yeah, it ups the game entirely.
Absolutely, yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
And when you get a feeling like that, you want more of it.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. That's the thing about performance. Anybody who's yourself, and whether it's music or whether it's sports, Stephen, when you get out there and you do it for like in front of the crowd or in front of the audience, that buzz is like nothing else. Like, all the training, all the kind of rehearsals, and all the stress. And I think the first thing everybody says when they come off stage is like, that went so quick, that was so fast.
Yeah, it does fly by once you're and for Old St. Mary's, we're singing 12 pieces. We're singing 12 pieces of music.
Yeah.
But it still goes by in an instant. It really does. Yeah.
And you've been involved for over 10 years, Eamon.
Yeah, 10 years. I'm 12 years now, as Marion said. We're going into my 12th year, as I said now. Yeah. They can't get rid of me. Like a bad smell. I just have to stick around,
Music is your life.
Oh, yeah. Well, it is, yeah. And it has been for a number of years now. I have I work as a trainer and instructor in Clonmel CTC. I must give them a shout out too. But yeah, I have the choirs. I have my own career as a performer and a composer too. And so it does take up a huge amount of time, and also organising these concerts and other concerts too. But look, it's a vocation. I think that's a word that's kind of gone out of habit or gone out of fashion, but it is a vocation. You kind of it kind of informs nearly
and
everything you're doing.
And it's an absolute privilege for us to have Eamon with us and to keep him.
Brilliant. And Marion, tell us about the trips you've been on and what that brings, where you're all together and you're on a journey. Oh
yes, that's any of the trips that we go on, especially when we go abroad. We are a cohesive group, so that and that comes together when we go abroad.
And would you have a set list of venues?
There's a set itinerary. Yes, we have one of our members, Sue, has taken over the mantle of our event organizer, so she organises everything. As we say, all we have to do is give her our passport number and the money, and
just be there at a certain time. Just be there when she says.
She has the itinerary. She has everything to a T.
Super.
Everything is organised. Yes,
it's given us a chance to perform in a lot of venues that we would never have access to.
Yes, absolutely.
I have to think back to a couple of years ago. We were on the east coast of Italy, centred around Abruzzo, a town called Vasto, where we were performing, in these huge, splendid, ornate, Italian churches, that like cathedrals.
And the same in Lisbon.
And the same in Lisbon.
The churches,
with these incredible acoustics. And even though, we were singing maybe a lot of stuff in English, that international language of music, and that being able to connect with audiences who you don't share a language with, but they can, you can share the emotion, you can share that love of music with. That's really important. And it is like music is a thing that unites all of us, irrespective of all the languages. And I think our programme as well for this concert, because it's a programme of music from stage and screen, just to mention that next Friday, night, that programme is all music that's either coming from musicals or music from film. So there's a great wide variety of stuff there that we'll be singing there on May the 29th.
What type of stuff, Eamon?
So we're going from everything from American folk in things like Poor Wayfaring Stranger to Latin, as Mary mentioned, but also Irish contemporary, like with the beautiful Sinead O'Connor piece In This Heart. People might know it from Peaky Blinders, shows up a lot in that. There's classics there like Your Moon River, but there's also stuff from musical theatre like the great Don't Rain on My Parade, by Barbra Streisand, from Hello Dolly, or not Hello Dolly, sorry, Funny Girl, and She Used to Be Mine from Waitress. So there's stuff there for all tastes. There's something for, I know people say this at every concert, but there really is something for everyone.
Yeah,
and
sounds
may it be from Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings, or not, Lord of the Rings, Enya. So there's a lot there, We've got we'll keep some in reserve.
Keep some in reserve.
Yeah. So and it is in Old St. Mary's, which is, as I said, it's this beautiful space. The acoustic makes it really perfect for that combination of strings and voices. It's something like that really just adds and ups the kind of the atmosphere.
Yeah, it sounds great. And then when it's here in Clonmel as well, you're definitely going to feel that energy as well.
Oh, yeah.
From the locals.
Yeah, let's hope so. Yeah.
But just to point out that this is not our first concert in Old St. Mary's. We've held our summer concert there for the past number of years.
I mean they're great in Old St. Mary's.
They
big
really
shout out there to Shirley and everybody at Old St. Mary's who've been very good to us over the years. Yeah,
they have.
And this choir, it is a way of life, isn't it? It's like kind of week on week, new song, new journey.
Oh yes. You have to put in the homework. If you don't, you have to be prepared to put in the homework.
Yeah.
Because if you don't put in the homework, you're at nothing really.
Yeah, it's true, because you have, from a musical director's point of view, you have people for maybe. You have 2 hours, but really an hour and a half, like between the comings and the goings, and you kind of can teach them stuff. But I think the thing as well, I always say about the bells and a lot of the choirs I work with, most of these choirs, these are not people who have a background in performance or professional singers at all. They're just people from every walk of life who
I can't read music. I don't read music.
That kind of thing.
And I'm not the only one in the choir that doesn't read music.
And that's true of our choral societies and things like that too. So you can kind of come for that hour, but they have to take that away with them, and they have to kind of keep it up, because if you just do it for that 1 hour, we can come back an hour next week. It's totally gone out of your head, of course.
Yeah.
So it does require that work, and I find it from all the choirs. I'm always really blown away by the amount of commitment and amount of work people put into learning these things and learning them up. It constantly impresses me and amazes me that people do that,
Because as well as our Monday night, we do in our groups, as we're 3 parts, so sopranos, mezzos and altos. So, for example, the altos would gather in one of our houses and have we would go do extra rehearsals.
Super. Right, so the effort is put in, and the friendship as well.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, we're really looking forward to this one. I'm going to try get along to it now. So Excellent. It is May 29th.
That's right.
In Old St. Mary's, Clonmel. Where can people
tickets are available on Eventbrite or cash or card on the door, and they're €20 each.
Well, fantastic. That is absolutely brilliant. Absolutely delighted to be joined by both of you, Marion and Eamon.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you so much.
It. And we're going to hear a little bit of it now, listeners. So bear with while...
Playing a little bit of, I think it's Both Sides Now by Joni Mitchell. That's what you're getting.
Fantastic.
Hopefully.
I looked at love that way.
that just fantastic?
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, puck on. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Well, you're very welcome back to Tipp Today with me, Stephen Gleeson, here for Frank Curry, and hope you're enjoying the show. That was fantastic before the break. The Belle Voci Choir will present Bells and Strings with the Libra String Quartet on May 29th in St Mary's Church. And great to have Marion Connors and Eamon O'Mahony in. A couple of messages in on that. Eamon is an extremely talented person and recently did a workshop with the Clonmel Choir in their resident practice venue of Old St Mary's Church, and we're truly grateful to him for the knowledge he shared. Choir sound brilliant. I'm looking forward to it, is another message in here. So a lot of texts in on that. You can keep them coming here. 083 311 3311. Well, although many Tipperary GAA fans were left extremely disappointed by Tipperary's performance against Clare over the weekend, it was the GAA Go paywall that left many of our listeners very unhappy over the weekend. And I'm delighted now to be joined by one of those listeners. Teresa Collins is on the line. Good morning, Teresa.
Good morning, Stephen. How are you?
Good, Teresa. You sent in a message and were in touch with us here, Teresa, and you're disappointed that a lot of the big GAA matches are behind a paywall now.
Yeah, it's not given the ordinary person like myself now that might be able to afford to go to a match where you could watch it on the telly. You know, we've been locked out. As I say, we're not getting much of a consideration. I mean, the GAA of all most important matches, and it being a national game, should be more on the TV than what it is.
Yeah, it's the sort of situation, more and more sports are going behind a paywall and less people are seeing them as a result.
There is, Stephen, and you've got to allow too, there's a lot of people now in the middle age to the elderly who always followed hurling, and to see it on the telly and mightn't be able in the position to travel to a match. You know, that is something for them. And I mean, you can't blame the people, you know, for being cross and contrary with the GAA over it, you know.
Yeah, and you're above in Portroe. You know, there's a huge GAA base there, like there is in all parts of Tipperary. We saw the same thing with Waterford. You know, they were behind a paywall as such, and a lot of people didn't get to see it. And a lot, you know, aren't sure how to access this. And, you know, you have to be nervous putting your digital coordinates into a phone or a computer to watch a game as well. So there's a lot involved with it.
There's too much involved with it. I mean, I have to admit myself now, I wouldn't be technically over-minded on that issue to do it. And as well as that, it's an expensive thing. But I will say here now, as I say, I do the CE scheme here with the Portroe GAA, and you have to give the lads here credit for what they do behind the scenes that people don't realise, from managing the gyms to managing the teams to the people that they give the availability of their time for nothing, you know. I mean, it's only when I started working here I seen the behind the scenes and what to do and how they've done it, and you know, they're here Saturday and Sunday volunteers, and the GAA don't give them half recognition for what to do, you know.
So you kind of feel that they're in some ways being taken advantage of, because when the match is on and Tip are playing, these people are excluded unless they pay like others who don't contribute at all to the GAA.
Exactly, and I mean, I have to say, even say a family ticket to go watch what it is to take your children to watch a good match is expensive for any family in today's world as well. You know, you've got to think outside the box as GAA. GAA is a 2 billion in rich as such. When you look at what ordinary people do for it, it should be included in every way possible for the ordinary people to see that match.
Now the GAA Go and you know, the organisation above in Croke Park will probably say to you that these matches wouldn't be broadcast only for GAA Go. What would you say to that?
Total rubbish. That's what I'd say to it now, Stephen, and I'm going to put you straight out. we always had RT1 and RT2 covering the GA matches. This week alone, not one GA match on the hurling was covered by them. I don't understand why our National Broadcasting Service can't cover our Irish heritage matches, which is the most important. They moved them from September up to now to July. So, I don't think that was a great move either. But look, I just think they should cover more of the matches, basically, of the really qualifying matches. They should be up front with them.
I was above in Portrush when Tipperary won the All-Ireland 2019. That was a huge day of celebration up there and thousands of people there. And, it's a difficult situation where you have someone like yourself that puts so much time into a club like Portrush and can't see Tipperary playing.
Well, now, Stephen, the best way in saying that, I'm a Killarney woman, but I only work for the lads here.
Okay.
I do what I can for them, and I back them 100% because I tell you one thing, no one realises, as I say, what goes into clubs, what goes into the coaches and the whole lot and what they have to do between camogie, between football and between the GAA. I open my eyes a little bit more now. I'm with them since 2018 here, and you can see the improvement that has made locally in a club, and I'm sure it's the same in all clubs throughout Ireland now, not just Portrush. But to do that, you have to, you know what I mean, you have to be considered to the people that can't travel, can't do the GA go, that would like to see the match, and why RT can't bring it on, I just don't know.
Yeah, it's a worrying precedent, really, the way rugby has gone, because Leinster weren't able to fill their stadium in Dublin for a knockout game in the Champions Cup recently, whereas 20 years ago when it was on free-to-air TV they had a much bigger following, it seemed like, and it's almost dwindled when the sport has gone behind a paywall to some degree. But you're seeing it now with other platforms putting sports behind a paywall. It seems to be the way sport is going.
And it doesn't seem to be a great way. As I say, I'm not tech savvy, but again, I'd like to go to a match on a Sunday, but then now the new thing is you have to pay by your car going in, you can't hang cash. Again, a lot of the elderly, middle-aged people haven't got the understanding of it. Right, you can come up with communications to a certain limit, but by God, I tell you, there's nothing like, as I say, in September, watching the All-Irelands on the television and the shouting and roaring at the television in your own house. So just supporting whoever is on. That good has gone out of it. It's absolutely gone out of it,
Yeah, it seems to be drifting away, and it is something I think that a lot of people are feeling the frustration about, Teresa.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Even myself now, even to go to a match, right, we can't always I can't afford to go to a match. I think it's 30, 25 and 15, I think, are the prices. But, I'd like to go to one or two, but you can't go every week because you can't afford it every week,
Disappointing for Tipperary anyway, wasn't it, on Saturday?
It was, but I'll tell you one thing, a real hurler won't give out, a real supporter will not give out about Tipperary, because I'll tell you one thing, they are the best bunch of lads you could meet. They did their best, they played their hearts, and there's always next year. There has to be a winner and a loser in any game, no matter what way you look at it. And I think if you support a team, no matter whether they're winning or losing, just go out and support them and be nice to them. There's no need to be rude about it. That's the way I'd look at it.
Yeah, and there is that element there now at the moment when a team loses, and I know they've Limerick next week, and I don't think that's been broadcast either. So there is that element there that people kind of, give out to them as such, even though they've committed so much time for this.
They don't deserve to give out, because I tell you one thing, we take the good with the bad in anything, whether it be sports or whatever way you like to take it. I have to say, Eamon and the boys there, you couldn't ask for better than what they gave us last year. So look forward to next year, right? We're down one, that doesn't matter. Next year's the one we look forward to. And if people get behind them right and correct, and that's what they need the support behind them. They need people to be able to go to the match, but be able to afford the match. A lot of families, and it's today's world is trying to get money to do A, B, C and D, and you just need support. You need support on prices. You need support on doing it correct and bringing us out onto the hurling field like we used to. But, you know, things have gone so different now that it kind of put you away from it. And I want to thank yourself and Paul. Now, I tell you, if I was near the two of you Saturday evening, you both have got the biggest hug from me because I thought you did brilliantly, absolutely brilliant, and you always do. Now, I was at home and listening to it on the radio and had the pitch mapped out in my mind of who was playing where and the whole lot. And you know what? It was lovely. Even though I didn't see it, but my mind was working as to where it was working. And I have to say thank you for that. You really made it.
Oh, thanks very much, Teresa. Much appreciated and delighted to hear that. Well, listen, thank you for getting in touch, and it's great to hear from you this morning. Thank you again, Teresa.
Thank you, Stephen, and thanks Tipp FM.
And that was Teresa Collins there on GAA Go. What do you think? Get in touch. 083 311 3311. We're going to take a quick break. Back with more soon.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1800 938 007. Join the conversation in Tipperary. Contact us through Facebook, Twitter, or email tipptoday@tippfm.com.
Well, you're very welcome back to Tipp Today with me, Stephen Gleeson, here this morning. A lot of texts coming in there, and we'll get to them in due course. And we'll just look at one or two here. RT are showing the Women's Champions League final next Saturday between a French and an English team. If they can do this, they should be showing GAA games. That's in relation to Teresa. Another one there. Best of luck to the Belle Voci Choir. They're amazing performers here. And a few more just coming in there. That one says it's good the Tipp match wasn't on RTE, especially the way Tipp played in it. So a lot of different messages coming through here. So keep on coming. 083 311 3311. Well, it's been revealed that 17 Tipperary artists have gone into hiding for this year's incognito online art sale in aid of the Jack and Jill Children's Foundation and the much-loved annual event in which the identities of the artists remain top secret are only revealed once the art deal is done, and this will take place on Wednesday, May 20th. Amongst the Tipperary artists taking part in Incognito 2026 are Ed Morrissey from Cllr, Patrick O'Neill from Thurles and Gillian Gubbins from Cashel. And I'm joined now on the line by Michaela McMahon, fundraising manager of Jack and Jill's Children's Foundation. Good morning to you, Michaela.
Hi, Stephen. How are you?
Good. Michaela, this is a huge event, and it's always met with great numbers and great popularity from people, and it's something that is very important too.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been doing it for 10 years now. This is the 10th year of it, and in total we've raised 1.4 million to date, and that is by people looking on Incognito, searching for pieces of art that they enjoy, and what they can do then is they enter into a raffle online, and on Wednesday at 11:45 is the closing time, and then at 12 o'clock the raffle will take place. And people will be, luckily, whoever wins the raffle will get the piece that they enjoy, and then they will find out afterwards who the artist is. So I suppose that's the really fun part about Incognito. Nobody knows who the artist is until they actually purchase. And the price of the postcard is €75, and what that provides is over 3 hours of nursing care for a Jack and Jill family. What Jack and Jill does is we're a nationwide charity, and what we do is we fund and provide up to 100 hours of nursing care and respite to families caring for children up to the age of 7 who have severe learning disabilities, which would be often associated with complex medical needs. And what that means is that typically the children might be tube fed or oxygen dependent, they might have seizures or might need a lot of medication, and they need around the clock care. So what our nurses do is they come into the homes and they give the parents a break. So that might be anything from whether they want to grab a cup of coffee with a friend, spend time with their other children, get some sleep, take a shower, just normal everyday things that we would take for granted, but that without Jack and Jill support or parents that we care for, they wouldn't be able to get. So it's a very important service, and I suppose Incognito is a massive fundraiser for us, and it's a great way to support hours of care for families in their homes.
Yeah, I remember meeting Jonathan Irwin, I think it is the founder of it, many years ago at an event, and he did great work over the years for Jack and Jill, and it's really grown into something amazing at the moment.
Absolutely. Like what he started, I suppose he's left such a legacy behind him. And we're currently caring for 504 families across Ireland, and 13 of those are in Tipperary. And then it's over 3,200 families that we've cared for since Jonathan started the Jack and Jill Children's Foundation in 1997. So it really has had a massive impact on families all over Ireland, and continues to do so. And I suppose that's the legacy that Jonathan and Marianne started. From what happened initially is they had a little boy, Jack, who had additional needs, and they ended up getting nurses into their home to set up care for Jack. And then ongoing, the support that we've been able to give is the exact same care plan that they had back then. And we're able to give that to 504 families today, you know. So it's been a massive impact that he has had throughout. And I suppose we're very proud that Jack and Jill is a service that has no red tape, no means test, no waiting list. And we're there for families when they really need us.
Yeah, and like the time and the effort that's needed for all that goes with this is huge. I mean, some of the children may be tube fed, oxygen dependent, they may not sleep, so it's a lot of pressure on the parents and the carers.
Yeah, exactly. Some of our children would need 24/7 around the clock care, and I suppose they're the kind of children that you wouldn't be able to give to a granny or an aunt or an uncle or somebody to mind, because their care needs are so specific and so complex. So I suppose without Jack and Jill's support, these parents would be left in a place where they wouldn't be able to get a break. And I suppose without the sleep, without being able to spend time with your other children and stuff like that, it can be a really hard journey, and that's where Jack and Jill comes in. So those 100 hours that we give per month, or up to 100 hours that we give per month to these families, many of our parents would refer to that as a lifeline, and that without it they don't know how they would continue to care for their child at home, and they would have to have their child in a hospital setting. So I suppose that's what we're all about, is making sure that the family can bring their child home, and that child is able to be with their family and part of the family, and cared for where they should be, in the comfort and surrounded by love and everything that is great about home. That's kind of the main thing that we work on, and that home is kind of the centre of everything, as it should be for a family. So the fact that we were able to give that back to the families is a huge part of what we do at Jack and Jill.
Oh, that's excellent stuff, Michaela. Well, just to tell you, we're delighted to be joined on the line now by one of the artists, Ed Morrissey. Incognito artist, is from Cllr here in Tipperary, and he joins us now on the phone lines. Good morning to you, Ed.
Good morning, Stephen.
Ed, you've been involved in this, and it's a huge undertaking and a really, really great event. Ireland's much-loved mystery art sale. Tell us a bit more about it from your perspective.
From my point of view, to join in this initiative, there are, I think it's 1,920 pieces in this show. So to be part of such an incredibly talented community, and if you go online and look at the pieces, it's such a diverse range of creativity. So to be part of that for me was a fantastic opportunity, and particularly because the artists are anonymous. You know, when you're looking at the art itself, you're buying it for what you enjoy, not just the artist's name, and then the fun element is then when you discover afterwards, you know, who created the work. So as you've discussed there with Michaela, the incredible work that this charity does, just to essentially give families some time out, you know, some time out to pause and just take a minute. And for me, art is very like that. It is taking time out. You know, so it sort of mirrors itself to be able to give something back to it.
And this is going to be a collection of almost 2,000 original artworks. Each costs €75. It can be viewed online at www.incognito.ie. And all these wonderful artists have contributed their time, and their thoughts and their efforts have gone into this.
Yeah, it's fantastic. When you look at it, it's like playing a game. For me, from an art point of view, it's like playing a game of Guess Who, and there's a couple of pieces I've bid on, you know, and you're buying a piece of art that you can enjoy in your own home, but you're giving that money to a family that needs it, you know, so it's a double whammy, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. So each one is 6 by 8 inch postcard size. How do you go about creating that, Ed?
I suppose I found it challenging, and I do love a challenge. I found it challenging in the sense that I normally work on bigger scale, on bigger canvases. So to reduce the space down to that size was really fun to try and do. You know, I'm a landscape painter. I paint the fantastic landscapes that we have around Tipperary. I recently had a show, an exhibition in the Clonmel Library and the Caricature Library, and the feedback on those two shows was fantastic, because to show exactly what we have here in Tipperary was brilliant for me. So to try and then reduce that down to the postcard size was just fantastic to be able to do.
Hugely challenging, I'd imagine. Do you go out into nature to paint? Do you take pictures and bring them back? What's your process?
I do. I take a lot of photographs. I often just go out with a sketch pad, work out compositions, sit in the field, you know, and then sort of amalgamate those ideas into the works that I finally produce.
Wow. So to do this one, you've made a lot of copies before you get to the finished product for the Jack and Jill Foundation.
Yeah, there was an incredible amount of planning, because they send you the 3 postcards. And I did have to work out quite a bit. There was a couple of practice runs at it first, without sort of losing any of the spontaneity.
Super. And how can people find out more about this then, Ed?
So literally, if you just find incognito.ie, you know, it bring you directly to the gallery, express your interest, hit the love heart. There's a little icon that you hit the love heart on whichever particular piece you like. It's going to be, I think it's going to be difficult for people to choose. I bid on a couple of pieces myself, and I was like, but maybe that one. But I think there's definitely something for everyone.
Yeah. So you're not sure who has taken this on until you actually get it? Yes,
yeah.
And when you get it then, like, will the name be on it? Will you have a connection with that artist afterwards?
You will, because on the flip side of that postcard are all of the details from Incognito and the artist's contact information, and you can look them up. You can find you can find my own website at edmorrisseyfineart.com, or it's on Instagram as Ed Morrissey, and it's the same for every artist in it. You know, so I suppose that's the big reveal on. I think it's next Saturday on the 20th.
Oh, it's going to just a fantastic thing. Well, listen, we're running out of time here, but thank you so much, Ed Morrissey, Incognito artist from Cllr, for joining us on the line here, and also to Michaela McMahon, the fundraising manager of Jack and Jill Foundation. 17 Tipperary artists are involved in that online art sale in aid of the Jack and Jill Foundation, and I think it'll be revealed Wednesday, May 20th. So get on there to incognito.ie. It's all to play for there. Thank you so much, Ed.
Lovely, thank you. Take care.
And that was Ed Morrissey there, and before that we heard from Michaela McMahon. We're going to take a quick break. Over to news then.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
Well, you're very welcome back to Tipp Today with me, Stephen Gleeson, in here for Fran at the moment, and I hope you're enjoying the show. Busy show, a lot in on text as well, and we'll come to them in a little while, but I'm delighted to be joined here in studio by Gillian from Lynch Solicitors. You're very welcome to the show.
Thank you, Stephen.
And Gillian, I suppose we've a number of things to get through today, and we'll be discussing probate litigation.
Correct, Stephen. Yes, there's been a huge increase in this type of work over the last couple of years, and even this year there's been a number of big High Court decisions on issues that arise where people challenge wills or disputes regarding wills, or where wills aren't properly made. So challenges. So probate litigation is essentially challenges to wills.
And I suppose the death of a loved one is a traumatic time in anyone's life, but when someone feels that they've been cheated out of an inheritance, it can create huge division and discord within the family.
Absolutely, and it can lead to families falling apart, so I suppose we would always urge at an early stage family meetings, mediation, but unfortunately that doesn't work in some cases, and we end up in litigation.
Okay, and what are the common grounds for challenging a will if that decision is made and you're not happy with it and you feel you have to?
Yes, absolutely. So there are a number of grounds for challenging a will. One ground is the validity of a will. Another ground is whether or not the will makes proper provision or fair provision for a spouse or for children. Another one is if there's executors' disputes. So if the executor doesn't progress the taking out of probate, that can lead to another challenge. Another would be undue influence, claims of undue influence.
Okay, and what would make a will lack validity?
And I suppose that's why it's important to always go to a solicitor or come to us to do your will, okay? Because there are very strict formalities that have to be followed in a will. For example, it has to be dated, has to be witnessed by two people. The people who witness wills can't get a benefit under the will. So there was a recent High Court case this year where somebody witnessed a will and they were also receiving a benefit. So that benefit lapses. You have to, it has to be witnessed by two people, and it has to said there are rules. For example, there has to be a residuary clause. So there are formalities that have to be observed.
It's a hugely traumatic experience then when you're dealing with everything and you've the emotion of the bereavement as well on top of that, and it can be particularly difficult if there's a will made and if a spouse has been excluded from the will, because it happens.
Yes, absolutely, it happens. So if a spouse is excluded from a will, they have an automatic standing in terms of what they are legally entitled to inherit. They have what's called a legal right share, and it's embedded in law. So if somebody does a will and they exclude their spouse, the spouse can insist on their legal right share, which is 1/2 of the estate if there are no children, or it's 1/3 of the estate if there are children. And that can blow the rest of the will out of the water, and I suppose that's a term that we would use. If a spouse steps in and takes their legal right share, the rest of the will is blown out of the water. So that is set out in law. Cohabitants, and I spoke to Fran about this 2 weeks ago, cohabitants don't have the same rights, but they have a right to look for provision, but it's not embedded in law that a cohabitant has a legal right share.
And you mentioned there about the spouse's legal right share. Is there any exceptions to that?
Yes, there are exceptions, and there's one notable case that dealt with the exceptions, and that was the famous case of Catherine Nevin, the Black Widow. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners that name would be familiar because that case was in the courts for years. So there can be exceptions. So one of the exceptions is unworthy to succeed, and the legal right share can be lost if the spouse is convicted of murder, manslaughter or attempted murder, or convicted of another type of offence which carries a sentence of more than 2 years. So there are limited exceptions, but generally murder, manslaughter or attempted murder would be what would fall into that exception.
Oh, they're serious things as well. And undue influence, tell me a little about that one. What are the common signs of that you'd look out for and that you'd have?
Absolutely. I've been involved in one or two of these cases over the last year or two. So typically undue influence, somebody has to make positive proof that the testator is the person who does the will. They need positive proof that they were pressurised to the extent that they did not do the will under their own free will. Okay, so merely convincing somebody or persuading somebody to leave you something, that isn't undue influence. So again, when we do wills for people, you know, if it's an elderly person, generally they may be brought to the office by a child. We wouldn't that person would not sit in on the will. We may meet somebody a couple of times to make sure that, you know, that they're doing it of their own free will. I was involved in one case previously where it involved somebody literally being befriended by somebody and then being smuggled essentially out of a nursing home to a new solicitor that they'd never met. And that was a case where there was an allegation of undue influence.
Okay, so very serious one as well. And we spoke about spouse being left out of the will, and can be equally traumatic, I suppose, if a child is excluded from a will.
Yes, and interesting that you say that, because children don't have any automatic inheritance rights. So a spouse is their legal right share. Children don't have automatic inheritance rights, but they can bring what's called a Section 117 application. So that is a court application saying that they were not properly provided for by their late parent. And there's a range of things that a court has to look at. It has to look at whether that parent failed in their prudent and moral duty to the child. So they'll look at what the child did, where was the child in life now in terms of income, expenditure, assets, and should the child have been more properly provided for in a fair way. So again, when we're doing wills for people, we will take detailed instructions why perhaps a child isn't being included in a will. It may be that they got a farm. It may be that they were funded through college. It may be that they got specific gifts that the other children didn't get. So it's very important that all of that information is gleaned or is documented somewhere in the event that there is a Section 117 application.
And Gillian, then if that situation arises where someone isn't happy with it and they decide to challenge the will, who pays for that, or what's the scenario regarding that?
Yeah, so I mean, these challenges are expensive. Certain types of challenges, such as Section 117, if the assets are below a certain amount, they can be brought in the circuit court. But a lot of other challenges have to go to the High Court, and there's a specific judge who actually deals, a probate judge, who deals with all of these cases, such as the amount of them. Generally, if it is generally in litigation, costs follow the event. But in probate litigation, the costs can come out of the estate if it was reasonable to bring this challenge. And again, that can significantly reduce the pot. It can reduce the estate, which can have a knock-on effect for everybody. Then there's one certain type of challenge which costs may not come out of the estate, which is where there's an allegation of undue influence. So cases involving allegations of undue influence would need to proceed with caution. You need to make sure that you have that absolute positive proof.
Texter here, if a child hasn't had contact for years, does that make a difference, is a question?
No, it doesn't, no. And sometimes that may actually assist with a case because they may not have been properly provided for by the testator. Okay.
And what... another one here, what can a beneficiary do if an executor doesn't take out probate and they can't get their inheritance? What would happen in that scenario?
Yeah, that's something we come across quite regularly. So there is what's called the executor's year. So the executor is the person who's nominated under the will to essentially administer the will and make sure that everything is done in accordance with the deceased's wishes. So they have a year to take out probate. If the year passes and they haven't advanced, you can then, so a beneficiary under the will can seek to have them removed as executor, because obviously they're waiting for their benefit. They can seek to have them removed as executor, and then there's, I suppose, a hierarchy or a chain in terms of who is next entitled to step into those shoes. So the person next entitled to extract the probate is whoever receives the residuary benefit under the will. So every will have a residue clause which says all the remainder of my estate I give to whoever. So those people then can step into the shoes and proceed to extract the grant of probate.
And just say that a situation arose where there was a dispute, a probate dispute, could it be settled outside of court to cut the costs?
Absolutely. It can be settled. There can be a deed of family arrangement where everybody can agree this is what we're going to do. We're not going to abide by the terms of the will, but we're all in agreement, and then we formalise it by way of a deed of family arrangement, which is an agreement. It can be done by mediation. Sometimes if proceedings are issued, parties will realise, oh my God, this is actually going to reduce the pot that's there. We're going to have to sell assets to pay the costs involved, and sometimes that'll bring parties to the table.
Okay, and if someone was granted a right of residence but refused to take it up, would that be an issue as well?
Well, if nobody has to take a gift under a will. You can always renounce your gift under the will. You're not obliged to take it.
Okay, that was another message in, and one here. What steps can I take if I believe a will has been forged or tampered with?
Okay, so and again, that goes back to the validity of a will, and a challenge can be made on the validity of a will, and if somebody thinks the will has been forged or challenged, it may involve forensic handwriting experts, and there's a recent case on that. The solicitor's notes who did the will, they'd all be very relevant.
Okay, good few messages coming in along those lines, and a lot of questions for you today, Gillian.
On this interesting topic.
Yeah. And if a solicitor is involved in this, how do they communicate this with other parties? Because it's such an emotional time if someone is bereaved.
Yes, so I suppose generally the solicitor will only be communicating with the executor, because the executor is the person who's been appointed under the will to conduct business in accordance with what's set out in a will. So generally we would be trying to keep costs down, and we would be generally communicating with the executor.
Yeah, someone's saying that what do I need to bring if I'm having a meeting with a solicitor about a dispute?
Well, I suppose the will, if they have a copy of the will, any documents that they have, you should always bring those for the first attendance.
Yeah, and if you have these cases go on and on, I'd imagine, do they?
They can go on, and often people actually don't have a copy of the will, because it's the executors who are only legally initially entitled to receive a copy of the will. Sometimes then the executors will instruct that you release a copy to the beneficiaries, but it's really only after the grant of probate issues that the will becomes a document of public record, and where a grant of probate has issued, the will is available for the public to request through the court service.
Okay, so I suppose if the information isn't coming from you directly, there's always room for other things getting involved and people just adding little lines here and there.
Absolutely. So I suppose clear communication between family members is very important, because obviously something that could start small can obviously snowball then and end up in contentious litigation.
All right, there's a lot in, and the texts are still coming in. Hi Gillian, probate is done, but they're looking for a document that may not exist. How long could this go on for?
I suppose it depends on what the document is. So I don't know what that document is. So should sit down with the solicitor and see what the document is. Why isn't it available, or when can it become available?
Also, if an asset is sold and the solicitor has the funds in their account, who gets interest on the funds, if there is?
Well, that will be a matter for when the estate accounts are done, interest to be accounted for in the estate accounts.
Oh, could talk about this, I'd say, Gillian, all day. A lot of messages coming in for you on that. So it is a very emotional thing, I suppose, and just, as you said there, clear communication, that's probably the basis of a lot of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And, a lot of disputes can be avoided and costs saved if there is clear communication.
And it's something that you encounter regularly?
We encounter a lot, and actually one thing that we encounter a lot that I didn't mention was capacity to do wills, where people assert that the person who did the will had lost mental capacity. So when we're doing wills again, we always take very clear instructions. If we've any concerns, or if we believe there may be a challenge about capacity at a later stage, we would get a medical report from their treating doctor. So it's important to go back to basics, and that the will is done right from day one.
Brilliant stuff. Gillian from Lynch Solicitors, many thanks for joining us this morning, and you've helped a lot of listeners here from what I'm seeing in the text.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks, Gillian. We're going to take a quick break. Back with more after this.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon, now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the Expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon, it's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
You're very welcome back to Tipp Today with me, Stephen Gleeson, here for Fran, and I'm delighted to be joined by my excellent producer here in studio, Leanne, who is helping me out because Fran's boots are big boots to fill. And Leanne, it's great having you there on the side. A lot coming through in the text machine here. It's non-stop.
A lot coming through, a lot on the GA go. Something really seems to have set off there. A lot of people upset they couldn't watch the match at the weekend. A lot of people didn't understand and sat on the mainstream channels waiting for it to come on, and were very disappointed then that they missed it.
And Teresa made very good points.
Yeah, and it's that idea of community. And I heard one man I spoke to, he said, I followed the GAA since I was a child. 60 years, I've given everything, I went everywhere. And he just is upset now. He feels like it's been taken away.
Yeah, and it's going to be the same this weekend. I don't think the Tipp Limerick match is to be seen either.
Yeah, and it was such a staple in so many people's homes to sit down and watch it together. It was on the telly, it was always there, it was on in the background. So it just seems really, really disappointing for a lot of people. Yeah,
it's something people will be getting back to us. We've a piece lined up here, Leanne, you'll tell us about it.
Yeah, I've been digging through the archives again. I love digging through and finding old clips. So this one is very interesting because it's a rivalry between Tipperary Springwater and Ballygowan for the international market. So it was the 14th of October 1987. So just like hurling, the water industry seems to be very, very competitive as well.
Oh, absolutely. Let's have a listen.
Borrisolee, lying at the foot of the Devil's Bit Mountains in North Tipperary, and the home of the Tipperary Spring Water Company, a company which owes its very existence to this man. Tom Young's the water diviner who traced the underground stream now tapped for its mineral water.
From day one I had no doubt that that it could produce way more water than they ever really would need there.
Initially that water was used to make soft drinks, but with the boom in bottled water, the Tipperary Spring Water Company was set up to give the public what they wanted to drink, and the battle with Ballygowan was on.
I think that Ballygowan sort of felt that he invented water, and I think this sort of affected them, and maybe they thought that we were stealing some of their clothes, which of course wasn't the case, because natural mineral water has been a phenomenon in all of Western Europe and the States and Australia, the Northern European countries, so it hasn't just happened in Ireland.
And riding on a wave of spring water sales, Pat Cooney's now planning to move the soft drinks company to a new factory and give the old one a facelift for his new product.
We will be putting a reception area over the well, and we will of course be upgrading the aesthetics of the buildings.
Because it's not all that aesthetic at the moment, really, isn't it?
Well, at least something to be desired.
Something they've already got is EEC registration as a natural mineral water, after tests to check its mineral content and its purity. And that's something the Ballygowan Spring Water Company in Newcastle West doesn't have. It's put its faith in an American standard.
There is no other mineral water plant other than Ballygowan in Ireland that is designed to and meets US FDA standards.
FDA stands for Food and Drugs Administration, and Ballygowan says its £2.5 million plant was designed and built with this standard in mind.
The prime reason we went firstly for the US Food and Drug Standard was that our prime target market at this point is the United States, and obviously we need to achieve the standard to be able to sell effectively in the United States.
Mr. Wilmot says his company's now going to apply for EEC registration and denies that Tipperary, in getting it first, has outmanoeuvred him. Ballygowan says it's been test marketing in the United States for the last year and a half, and since the beginning of the month is being distributed there through nearly 1,000 wholesalers. Tipperary says its American sales in the same period are running at £400,000.
Well, I've been to the States 5 times this year, and I haven't seen any Ballygowan over there.
But it is a big place. Maybe you went to the wrong store.
Well, certainly we're concentrating essentially in the New York and Boston areas, but certainly in the New York and Boston areas I haven't come across any Ballygowan. But I'm quite sure that anybody visiting there will come across an awful lot of Tipperary.
I think he doesn't know where to buy mineral water in the United States.
There's even less agreement about home sales.
Let me give you the facts as established by a very reputable multinational market research company. Those figures disclose that Ballygowan holds 75% market share and a share that is growing. The remaining 25% is, a majority of that is held by Perrier, and all other waters, of which there are 6, including 2 Irish products, have between them 13% share.
Tipperary disputes this, saying that if the Irish market is worth £2 million a year, it knows from its sales it's got 30% of that, and that all surveys should be viewed with scepticism.
I think if you ask Perrier, ask Ballygowan and ask us what percentage each of us have of the market, add them up and you'll get 200%, no matter who you ask.
In this battle, Ballygowan's got the backing of Anheuser-Busch, the American beer giant, which owns just over 50% of its shares. That's what's paid for the new factory with its computer-controlled systems and its laboratory to keep a constant check on water purity. Tipperary has no such backing. It can't afford expensive test marketing. It sells its water from the start, or it sinks. It's the underdog, but an underdog with a thirst for sales. It's going to be an interesting battle.
Well, isn't that a fascinating piece back from the archives? My thanks to Leanne for that on the water rivalry. And Borrisoleigh water was associated for many years with the forefront of it alongside Ballygowan. So very interesting piece there on water rivalry from the archives. Well, I'm delighted now to be joined in the studio here for our interior slot by Karen Prendergast. Karen, you're very welcome.
Thanks so much, Steve, for having me this morning.
Yeah, great to have you here. And I suppose we're talking today about, lighting your home and, how you want to feel. Is that what that's all about?
Yeah, so lighting your home and how you want your room to feel and your house and how you want your house to work for you. Because time and time again, each topic that comes up when I'm in, lighting is always a little part of it. And actually there was an open morning down in Clonmel last Friday, and I announced it last Tuesday that I was going to be there, and some of the listeners came in to meet me with house plans and questions and the whole lot, and some of them had lighting questions in those questions as well. So I thought today would be a lovely topic to follow on from last week. So lighting your home. So how to shape the feeling of your home. All the elements of interior design, of all of them, lighting is one of the most important, and as I said, we talk about it here all the time, and yet it's the one that changes everything first. So I think if you're doing a renovation, before you think of any furniture or any paint finish, you should think about the quality of lighting and how you want the room that you're in question or house to feel. So it can be warm or cool, energising or restful, but you're not going to get all those feelings and looks out of one type of lighting. So I would say step 1 is to decide how you want the room to feel. So before you look at a single pendant or recessed lighting or get the electrician in, ask yourself one question. How do you want the room to feel when you walk into it? And I think this is the starting point for every room. So, rooms aren't going to have just one reason or one task in the room, so we're going to come to a minute. So every room in the house does feel a little bit different and has a different feeling of in that space. For instance, a bedroom most of the time is going to be restful. The kitchen is going to be where a lot of the tasks are done in the house and the work is done, so you need different types of lighting there. So I would say ask yourself these questions first. Should this room feel calm or restorative or lively or social? Will it be used for focused tasks or purely relaxing? Do you want the space to feel larger, airier or cosy and enclosed? what time of day are you going to use the room most? That's really important. Is it going to be a day room or a night room? And is this room for gathering, for quiet, or for individual use? And then that's going to dictate the type of lighting that you need to use there as well. So 3 layers of lighting is the normal that you look at. So the first one is ambient lighting. This is the foundation. So this is the base layer. So this is what fills the room and is the light that you're going to put on mostly. It shouldn't be too bright or harsh, and shouldn't be, stay away from the blue bulbs and the yellow bulbs and that kind of thing. So the second type of lighting then is task lighting. So this is more layer lighting. So it's targeted at practical, and it illuminates specific zones for activities to take place, like reading, cooking, writing, applying makeup, all those kind of things that we do other than when we're using the very big light. Because if you think back to years ago, there was very little done, only the single pendant light in the ceiling. And in kitchens, maybe starting back 20, 25 years ago, you might have put in some spots in the kitchen. Other than that, that was it. All your layers came from lamps.
Okay.
A floor lamp, or lamps on the sideboard, or lamps wherever. So lighting now has gone to be such a big thing in a house or a room when you're deciding to do it up. And if you have a house, which a lot of my clients do that I go to, their house is 20, 25, 30 years old, and they wouldn't have the options back then that they have now.
Message in here for you, Karen. I'm doing up my kitchen. Will the colour I painted affect the light?
It might. It depends on what, and the room that you're in question. Is it north facing? Is it south facing? Is it sunny? Is it dull? And it might affect it. And I'm going to come to that in a minute as well. That depending on the type of lighting you're using there, it can make corners dark. Or if you use lamps or you use spots, it can bring those corners to light. So that's really important too, So as I said, ambient lighting is the first one. Task lighting is the second one. So what could task lighting look like? It could be under cabinet strips in the kitchen for prepping and cooking. Even if you aren't able to build those in as a starting point, you can add them on now, and they're rechargeable. They're 10 a penny now. Adjustable desk or floor lamps are great for reading and working. Vanity lighting placed at face height beside a mirror, probably not above it but beside it, is great as well. And pendants over kitchen islands are great for an island space only, which means then if you have spots in your kitchen and you have some kind of pendant lighting over your dining room, and if you have a separate lighting over your island unit, at least you don't have to have all the lights on together.
Okay.
It's cost effective as well, And the third one then is accent lighting. So this is kind of a character layer. So it's picture lights, directional spots above some artwork, maybe shelf lighting inside bookcases or display cabinets, LED strips behind furniture or along skirting boards or in alcoves. Or indeed now what a lot of people are doing is if they're building in a shelf in their shower area, Stephen, they might put some strip lighting in that as well. And decorative base lamps, of course, are still the focal point. But since I started out doing interior design 30 years ago, it has come on so much. Lighting has come on so much. Kitchens have come on so much. The selection of bathroom wear, the selection that's out there now is mind-boggling. So it's always good to do your research before you start a project,
And I suppose people will be doing up other rooms as well. And, there's probably, would you use different things for different rooms?
You would. I suppose the living room, most of the time, if the living area is in the kitchen, it's going to be used a lot. But if it's a room on its own, it's going to be more for evening use and the whole lot. So you need to layer enough lighting. Make sure that you put a dimmer switch on that ceiling pendant there as well, that you can dim the light there. Have more than one lamp there, and I think that is really gorgeous. Your kitchen is definitely going to be the most demanding place for lighting. So again, like I said earlier on, you're going to need something over your island unit, you're going to need spots on the kitchen section, you're going to need a pendant or maybe a few lights over your dining room table. You might want lighting underneath your top presses as well. So there's a lot to consider in a kitchen. Bedroom, not so much. It's you really are depending a little bit on the overhead light. Some bedrooms now, they'll put in 4 spots instead of one pendant in the newer houses, and bedside lamps are or wall mounted lights on the wall there over the bedside lamps are definitely going to be your friend there. So less is more. And
the other rooms then, like?
Yeah, we have the hallway and the entranceways. They need to be well lit. They're the first impression when you come into your house, your front wall. So a nice statement pendant. Normally people might go for a nice chandelier or a nice pendant in there, you know. They're always really popular. And of course, if you have some pictures there, you might put some lights over your pictures, or you might put some wall sconces there that can be lit as well. So they're gorgeous to make a really good impact in your front hall. And I suppose the other place that's important is a bathroom. Now the majority of people, if they're doing up their bathroom, they'll put in a mirror with the light the mirror that's included. You know, again, go back 10 years ago, there was hardly no mirrors with the light included in it. Now every brochure.
Now you move your hand in front of it and it switches it on and off.
And even one lately, I had a client and it had a connection for the phone that you could plug in.
Wow.
So one of the kids wanted that, so they got as well. So, you know, the options are really endless. And I suppose a good one is to put a dimmer on most of your lights, a dimmer switch on them if you can.
That's become very widespread at the moment.
And I suppose when we hadn't the choice of light scenarios 10, 15 years ago, you know, the smarter ones of us maybe were thinking about the dimmer back then, even 20 years ago, you know. So I suppose...
And what does that do? Just change the mood, is it?
Well, it lowers the light in the bulb, so you can have it much lower or higher, you know.
Okay,
and dimmers are available now. If you don't have it for your lamps, it's available that you can buy plug-in plugs, and they're worked on remote control as well, and they're really cheap, Stephen. So there's loads of options out there.
Okay.
And I suppose common mistakes to avoid, just to finish up this section, is relying on single overhead lights in any room. I think it's a bad idea. It's a bit flat and lifeless. So again, go back to the tips that I gave earlier on. Placing down lights in a grid rather than over specific places that you need it for a task. The old way of doing it was you go in and you might need 6, 9, 12 spots in an area. Make sure that the spots just aren't in a grid and in lines, that they're lining up to where you need them to work for you, as opposed to just the grid system. Again, skipping dimmers to save cost. A dimmer switch is more expensive than a standard one. It's a false economy because it limits the room and the light that you have there. Don't ignore dark corners. They'll shrink a room. That was kind of to answer the question that came in as well. Make sure that you have light going on in those corners, be it a floor lamp or a table lamp. Make sure you don't mix colour temperature bulbs in the one area, so you can get blue toned, yellow toned, warm toned. Stick to the one colour bulb. If you have a bulb in a lamp in the table, and you have a bulb in the ceiling, and you have a bulb in a floor lamp, make sure they're all the same colour. And don't treat accent lighting as optional. Make sure that you use it in your plan, because that's what's going to design your room lighting wise.
Okay, fascinating, really. And
there's a lot to it, you know. There's an awful lot to talking about lighting in the home.
Yeah, and it'll affect the mood and the time of day and all
and
these
how
things.
You use it, because I go into so many kitchens now, revamping kitchens, maybe getting kitchens hand painted and changing the worktop and whatever. That's a very common, and revamping bathrooms. They're very common jobs for me on a weekly basis. And the one thing people will say is when they're prepping the food or over near the cooker, there's not enough of light, and they're standing in their own light from the overhead light.
Oh yeah.
So it's really important that if you are doing a revamp or spending, you know, our hard-earned money, that you make sure that the lighting, I think, is probably one of the first things that you should look at, above a paint colour or above accessories or anything like that. Yeah, it should be taken into consideration as a number one.
Okay, that's big thing to consider. So final word, if we were to sum it up, Karen, it's a big undertaking doing up your place too.
It is. So I think if you learn to see lighting as a design tool as opposed to just lighting, and not just the practical, we'll put in a few spots here, a few spots there, your home will feel completely different. And going back to kind of how I opened, make sure that you light your room to what suits you and how you're using that room. And I think lighting makes the biggest difference possible in a home if it's done thoughtfully and useful for the person living in the house, because of course not everybody lives the same. You know, and somebody might want very bright lighting in their bedroom, for instance, if they're reading at night. Somebody might want lighting that when they walk out of the bedroom, the bed or into the bathroom, that lighting automatically comes on and it goes back off again. You know, it's a sensor light. So sensor lights are coming more popular in homes as well.
Yeah,
even
energy
maybe
saving.
Energy saving, and maybe even for the hall, if you have children, they might get up at night that a sensor light comes on in the hall or the bathroom. That's a great idea.
Great
so
stuff.
and now the cost of living, we're all trying to save a few bob as well. So if we can, through lighting and through bulbs and through how we use our lighting, why not?
And do it right. Well, listen, that's fantastic as always, Karen Prendergast. Thanks for joining us here in studio. And that was Karen there. We're going to take a quick break. Back with more after this.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1800 938 007.
Well, you're very welcome back to Tipp Today with me, Stephen Gleeson, here for Fran today, and I hope you're enjoying the show. We have a good few texts coming in, and thanks to Karen for helping me there. Some great advice. One texter says, another says, the split season has to go. This is relating to Gaelic games and GAA Go and all the rest. The split season has to go. Waterford, Wexford, Tipperary and either Offaly or Kilkenny are out of the championship and the children are still in school. That's from Tom in Douala. And someone else says that she agrees with Teresa here as well. So a good few texts coming in on that. And somebody else tells me that Limerick and Tipp is on RTE2. Up Limerick, they say here in the message, tuned in from across the border. So good to have you on board here on Tipp FM as well. So we have a lot coming through on the text machine, 083 311 3311. Well, Nevo are holding their driving event this Sunday, May 24th, in the Setu Arena in Waterford, and the event will allow people to get behind the wheel of the latest EV and learn all you need to know to make the switch to electric motoring, and connect with industry professionals, local dealerships and charging providers who will all be on hand to answer your questions. Content and PR Director at Nevo.ie, Derek Riley, joins me on the phone lines now. Good morning, Derek.
Good morning, Stephen.
Good to have you here with us. And this event is huge, Derek, I suppose, because you're seeing the switch now more and more with world affairs and what's going on. People are interested now in EVs more and more.
Yeah, definitely finding out more, Stephen. Last month we ran the same event in Kildare and we sold out with 2,500 people attending. So we're seeing the same kind of trend in the Waterford area, and for the Waterford event this Sunday, a lot more people are looking to find out more about electric vehicles, understand what the range is actually like, talk to the local dealers, but also you'll find a lot of EV owners that are looking to upgrade to their next car will show up on the day, and the person beside you in the queue are looking at that brand new EV. They might already be an EV driver, and they're the best people to talk to about what's it actually like to drive electric vehicles.
Yeah, and it's different to drive an electric vehicle because you don't have the clutch and you don't have to use gears. So when you're going up a hill, it'll automatically take you up the hill, almost like bumpers cars of years ago.
Exactly, yeah. So it's instantaneous torque. It's very quiet. They're all automatic, pretty much. One or two of them have some fancy gear selections inside them, but it does it all for you. So yeah, it's like driving an automatic petrol or diesel. So that's very similar, but the sound, a lot of people like the instant torque. And the fact that they're a brand new car, it just means they've got the latest technology, and they have the ability of over-the-air updates, which means you could wake up in the morning and your car might have even more range where they've updated the software within the vehicle. So lots of things that would interest people, but the main thing that people want to know is about the running cost. And if you're able to charge at home, if you're able to pull in and have a driveway in front of your property, yeah, you could be saving 60 or 70% on the cost of petrol or diesel every single month, because you're able to avail of that overnight tariff, or you might have solar panels, and if the car is parked outside the door during the day, you could be getting clean, green, free electricity as well.
My understanding of it is that if you're going to Dublin, we'll say in an EV, you'll get to Dublin and halfway back you decide to charge your car somewhere along the route. You'll pay similar enough to what the cost is of petrol or diesel, but if you have it at home and you have the car charged, you're paying a small fraction of the cost of petrol or diesel per kilometre.
Yeah, it's about 30% of the cost of the petrol or diesel prices before the fuel hikes started in the middle of March. And so that would have been the older prices, whereas the newer prices, there's probably even more of a gap because the price of electricity hasn't gone up. You're locked into a 12 or 24-month contract. I did a big journey last week. I went from Dublin to Sligo, back down to Limerick and back up to Dublin there, 680 kilometres. And when I stopped and had a bite to eat, I only had to plug in the car for 10 minutes and it got me the full way. And so the car itself could have gone 650 kilometres without stopping. So it shows you can go around the country, not even across the country or up and down the country. The newer cars have an even bigger range and they're faster to charge as well. So all the things that people were worried about in the past, that range anxiety, is starting to become a thing of the past because batteries are getting bigger, the charging network is getting stronger. And if, like you say, if you're able to charge at home, there's enormous savings to be made.
And people are worried, I suppose, that do have them after maybe 5-6 years, the battery fails. Is that the case, or will they keep going on and on? Because I suppose it's relatively new, so there's more fears with this technology than you would have with technologies that are there for 50 plus years.
Yeah, we're finding that the cars we would have got Nissan Leaf back in 2010, so they're 16 years on the road. And we're finding that the percentage of actual failures is very low compared to combustion engines. You'll hear about engines blowing and gearboxes going and all the rest of it. And manufacturers want to make sure that people who are buying EVs they can rest assured that the battery isn't going to fail. So they put very big warranties on them, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years. Some manufacturers give 100,000 and 1 million kilometres. So there's a lot of backup there to make sure that if you are taking the leap into going electric, you have that warranty to make sure that if something does go wrong, and that's not saying things don't go wrong every now and again, they will do, but the warranty is there to make sure that you're covered for it. And we find that the battery's lasting longer than the car itself.
The style is slightly different as well. You know, you could judge by a car on the road, that's a diesel car, that's an EV. There's kind of and there's new kind of brands on the road. You're seeing like Polestar, MG, there's differences now as well.
Yeah, definitely. The styling, it's very much about aerodynamics and making sure that the car can slip through the air. It doesn't need a front grille because it doesn't have an engine inside that you have to cool down. And so you can start to see how they look slightly different, how their style is slightly different. And also since the middle of last year, we've got the green flash on the license plates. So any new EV since July of last year will have a little green stripe on the license plate. So you'll know for sure whether it's an electric vehicle or not. And so, yeah, we've about 140 different electric vehicles on the market at the moment. So there's ones going from 16, 17, 18,000 euros all the way up to 250,000. So like a petrol or a diesel car, there's one for every single budget and one for every single size.
And are you finding that the switch is quicker than you can deal with, or is it balanced out the way you would have predicted a few years ago, Derek?
Yeah, we were pacing along there nicely. We were at roughly around the European average before the fuel hikes, and I think since the middle of March now we're starting to see people would have been fed up of going to the petrol pump and not being able to control how they fuel their vehicle, whereas if you're able to plug in at night time, you know exactly what your tariff is. And so we would have seen a 457% increase in website traffic and across social media searches for Nevo, because we're an impartial website, and that's what we're doing at the show on Sunday. People can come along and see all the different brands, talk to all the local dealers, and understand what it's like to go electric. So we're just there to give people the education on whether they go electric or not, and then it's down to the driver themselves and the buyer to make sure that the electric is the right for them. It won't suit everybody, but it would suit the vast majority of people. When you have average ranges of over 450 kilometres, there isn't a lot of people every single day doing that kind of mileage. So an EV would suit an awful lot of people in Ireland. And that's why we put the show on. You can test drive. You can come into the actual SETU arena. We'll have cars inside as well. You can talk to local dealers. And on top of that, then we'll have educational workshops from the stage, so you can come along and listen and understand whether you're starting your journey, whether you're thinking of changing, or you're just about to get one delivered, a 262, and you want to know what's the best tricks and tips to get the most out of your electric vehicle.
It sounds like it's going to be a brilliant event. Just what you said there about software and plugging in. So if you have a limit on, we'll say your range, say it's 400 kilometres, and the software is updated in the car when you connect, does that go up?
Yeah, potentially, yeah. We've got some manufacturers in the past, when they've updated their software, they've optimised it. So that means you could wake up in the morning and your car had 400 kilometres the day before, and then it had 420 kilometres the morning after the software update. So, yeah, it's amazing what they can do with technology now and what they call over-the-air, OTA, over-the-air updates. And it also means you don't have to go back to the dealership as often, because they're able to push this down through the SIM card in the car as well. So it's fascinating what they can do with technology.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on the hybrid cars where you have some electric power and some fossil fuel, be it petrol or diesel?
A lot of people like to take that step first before they go full electric, so they'll have hybrid, and they might even go plug-in hybrid then, so they'll fit the charger. And what I hear from friends and family is they've gone hybrid or plug-in hybrid, and they go, I didn't realise how often I was only in electric mode. And then the next time they purchase a vehicle, they'll go with a full electric vehicle. With the hybrids, you're still having to go to the pump and get your petrol or diesel as well. So with the price, we found that a lot of people now are jumping over that step and going straight to electric, because the ranges are so big. But I'd never force anybody into an electric vehicle. I always want to make sure it's what they need and what they understand. And that's, again, why we're doing the show on Sunday. It's free to attend. People can register for their tickets. And we're really looking forward to a great day down in Waterford.
That's a fair drive that you went. Where did you say? Dublin, Sligo, Limerick and back up that direction, was it?
670 kilometres, yeah, and it got to about 650 kilometres before I had to stop and charge it. And I was stopping for a bite to eat in the Barack Obama Plaza anyway, so I plugged it in when I went in and got my Supermax. And then when I came out, I had an extra 350 kilometres. I didn't need any more than that, and off I went again. So yeah, amazing. That was the BMW iX3. So phenomenal range, and we're seeing a lot of the newer models are coming out with those big 600, 700, 800 kilometre ranges.
Yeah, from talking to people who, have EVs, the word is they're very happy when they can charge it at home, get up and go to work and come back. But sometimes there's not enough chargers, and sometimes at places that you would be out on the road, you have shelter for the petrol diesel section of when you're getting it, and if it's driving rain, as it can be in Ireland, you have to go into the rain to charge your EV. That's something I presume you'll be working on.
Absolutely, yes. We did a survey there last month where we surveyed over 1,000 drivers, EV drivers and non-EV drivers. And those EV drivers, 94% of them said they'd continue to go back to EV the next time. So over 9 out of 10 people who've gone electric will stay electric. But your point about more chargers, we're going to get another 600 fast chargers this year. And we are starting to see purpose-built charging stations with canopies overhead. And when you go to the continent like Germany or Denmark or Norway, we're further down that line, you can start to see these fueling forecourts where the EV pumps are at the front and petrol or diesel is down the back. And they're the ones with the canopy at the front, and you don't have a canopy over the petrol and diesel one. And so it's amazing how things will start to change once more and more EVs in Ireland. So we're looking forward to the charging network getting stronger this year for sure. But the vast majority of us are mostly charging at home when we're getting the cheaper rates. But yes, more chargers required out and about.
Yeah, changing times for motoring indeed. So that event is on Sunday, May 24th in the SETU Arena in Waterford. Derek, thank you so much for joining us this morning on Tipp Today.
Thanks, Stephen.
And that was Derek Riley there, Content and PR Director at Nevo, and you can get along to that event in Waterford this Sunday. That wraps it up here today for us at the moment. My thanks to Leanne, who produced. From me, Stephen Gleeson, talk to you again soon. Bye for now, and it'll be a break and then news. Bye for now.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.